Chapter 160. They live in my house. The checkered shirt woman looked at Fong Yin cautiously and said, I know. They put dead people's photos in my house. I can't rent out my house in the future because of the bad smell. I know. You want money, right? Fong Yin asked. I'm not asking for money. I just want them to move out as soon as possible so they don't affect my future rent. They won't leave now. Fong Yin looked at the woman's fat face and said, Their relatives just left, and there are still a lot of things to deal with. They won't leave, and they can't leave. At least not for the time being. Then I won't give you money either. Fong Yin said, You've scolded them for so long, and I can only promise not to hit you for the time being. No one wants to suffer this kind of inexplicable abuse, and no one has the right to attack others. Every time you scold them, it's equivalent to them returning the favor for occupying your house. The more you scold them, the faster they will return it. You might even owe them a lot in the end. At that time, I don't mind helping them collect the debt. Do you want to continue scolding them, or do you want to buy a watermelon from the fruit store across the street to quench your thirst? The checkered shirt woman opened her mouth, but she didn't dare to continue scolding. She was afraid that Fong Yin would ask her for money. She angrily glared at the two women in the room, turned around, and walked towards the corner of the street. When the checkered shirt woman came over, Secretary Li had been watching coldly from the side. She wanted to see how this young man would drive this woman away. Throw money at her like a willow tree, or hit her with his fists like a hooligan. Reason? She was afraid that this kind of money-hungry shrew wouldn't accept this kind of negotiation method. The more gentlemanly you were, the more she would take an inch. She didn't expect that he would use such a strange transaction. What an unpredictable guy, Secretary Li thought in her heart. After the checkered shirt woman left, Secretary Li reported to Lu Chaoga, Miss Lu, Mr. Lu has just compensated that woman a lot of money. Lu Chaoga nodded and said insatiable greed. She limped to Lu Jinju's wife and said, I want to say sorry to you, but I also know that it doesn't mean anything to you. What happened doesn't mean it's over. I promised Lu Jinju, and I promise you again now, I will find out the truth, and I will make the murderer suffer the most miserable and cruel treatment. I promise I will do it. As a woman, I know how difficult it is for you right now. Therefore, I will do my best to help you. I'm not trying to express my guilt towards you. I just want to let Lu Jinju leave in peace. Do you want to stay in Huaqing or return to your hometown? The middle-aged woman thought about it and said with red eyes, I want to stay in Flower City. I have to work. Xiaobao had to study and live in the city. This is Zhuzi's wish and mine. I don't want Xiaobao to be like his father in the future. He doesn't have to be a security guard because he's uneducated, and he can't hold an umbrella for others because he can't get wet. Zhuzi is very motivated, but he's very pitiful. I understand, Lu Chaoga said. I will get someone to prepare a house for you. It won't be very big, but it will be very close to your workplace. I will give you a job that suits you. I will give you a year of paid leave. You can adjust your emotions and raise your child in this year. After a pause, Lu Chaoga continued, I will transfer Xiaobao's file to the Long2 Group's senior employees file system. He can enjoy Long2 Group's medical and accident insurance, and he can enjoy Long2 Group's education and entrepreneurship fund. In other words, all of his school fees will be covered by the group. After he finishes his studies, he can use the entrepreneurship fund provided by the group to start his own business. Of course, if he has the ability, he can also stay in the group to work. This is what I can provide for you. Thump. The middle-aged woman jumped off the bed and knelt in front of Lu Chaoga. She hugged Lu Chaoga's calf and cried, Thank you, Miss Lu. Thank you. I will take good care of Xiaobao. I will make sure that Zhu will have no regrets. Such kind people. The old lady who was hugging her little grandson was also in tears. Thank you all for your kind people. I will pray to Bodhisattva every day so that Bodhisattva can bless you with a long life. It was not convenient for Lu Chaoga to bend over, so Fong Yin quickly squatted down and pulled the middle-aged woman up. Secretary Li walked in front of Lu Chaoga and said, Miss Lu, Mr. Jiang asked me to escort them back. Did you hear that? Lu Chaoga pointed at the middle-aged woman and said, She wants to stay. She wants her child to live in Huacheng. She wants her child to receive a better education in Huacheng. I will help Lu Jinju fulfill his unfulfilled wish. Secretary Li smiled awkwardly and stood to the side without saying anything. As the car slid on the highway, Lu Chaoga, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, "Is it fair?" "What?" Fong Yin, who was driving, did not understand what Lu Chaoga meant. "It's not fair." Lu Chaoga sighed softly. Lu Chaoga had many injuries on her body. In addition to the inconvenience of walking, there were also many cuts on her face. She had no choice but to take a few days off from school to rest at home. At the very least, she had to wait until the wounds on her face were better. Otherwise, when she went to the office, people would think that Lu Chaoga and Fong Yin had a conflict and started fighting. After the car stopped, Fong Yin quickly walked to the back seat and helped Lu Chaoga out of the car. Just as they were about to return to the courtyard where they lived, a surprise shout came from behind. Fong Yin. Fong Yin turned around and saw his grandparents standing not far away, looking at him. The person who had just shouted was his grandmother. Grandpa was carrying a shopping bag in his hand. There were vegetables and meat in it. They should have just come back from shopping at the supermarket. "Grandpa, Grandma, did you go shopping?" Fong Yin asked with a smile. Grandma walked quickly to Fong Yin, but her eyes were smiling at Lu Chaoga. She said, "Where did you two go?" "Principal Lu is not feeling well. I sent her to the hospital," Fong Yin said. Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yin with dissatisfaction and thought, "I didn't go to the hospital. Who wants to be told that they went to the hospital?" Grandma was anxious and asked with concern, "What's wrong with little Lu? Where is it? Io, what happened to little Lu's face? How did you get hurt like this?" "I accidentally fell," Fong Yin said. Lu Xiaoga did fall, but it wasn't an accident. He was pushed down by him. Of course, he couldn't explain the details to Grandpa and Grandma. There were many things that could only be borne by young people like them. Grandma got closer and looked at the wound on Lu Chaoga's face carefully. She said, "Why does it look like it was scratched by someone?" "No," Fong Yin said with a smile. "Who dares to scratch our Principal Lu?" Grandma's eyes changed when she looked at Fong Yin. She asked with a serious expression, "Fong Yin, tell me, did you do it?" Fong Yin had a feeling of being hit by a stick. "Grandma, are you my biological grandmother? How can you doubt your grandson like this? How could your grandson do such a thing? How could I have the guts? How dare I shave Principal Lu's face like this? Fong Yin, how could you do such a thing?" Grandma said angrily. "The Fangs taught you to fight all day, but didn't they teach you how to read and write? Our Lu family is a family of scholars. Respecting women is the most basic virtue. You actually use force on a woman. Can you still be considered a man?" "Grandma, I didn't," Fong Yin hurriedly explained. He didn't dare to bear the bad reputation of hitting a woman. His grandma was a talented student in Peking University's Faculty of Arts. She was a famous feminist when she was young. Grandfather Lu had such a strong personality, but in private, he was also tamed by her to be docile and obedient. If he left such a bad impression in her heart, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in front of her for the rest of his life. More importantly, he wouldn't be able to eat the food she cooked in the future. "How could I hit a woman? I like them so much." You ask Principal Lu. You ask Principal Lu what's going on?" Grandma looked at Lu Chaoga and asked, "Little Lu, tell me, what's the matter with the injury on your face? Did Fong Yin shave it?" "No," Lu Chaoga said. Look. Fong Yin was amused. "How could I do such a thing? Fong Yin only pushed me down. That's why I got hurt," Lu Chaoga said. Fong Yin's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I pushed you down to save you. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. Fong Yin, you really disappoint me." Grandma was furious. She looked around, grabbed a bunch of green onions from the shopping bag, and hit Fong Yin's head. "How could you do such a thing? Why did you push little Lu down? This is worse than shaving your face." "Grandma, you misunderstood," Fong Yin explained while covering his head. He felt that he was really wronged. How could a woman like Lu Chaoga stab him at this time? Weren't they close comrades and partners? "I misunderstood you." Grandma slapped him even more vigorously. Little Lu said it himself. What kind of misunderstanding can there be? Lu Gong's face was also embarrassed, and he scolded, "A man who hits a woman will never have a bright future." "Lu Chaoga," Fong Yin roared angrily. "Little Lu, don't speak up for him." Grandma held Lu Chaoga's hand and comforted her. "If you don't teach him a lesson, he'll be even more lawless in the future." Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yin and said, "He pushed me down to save me." Chapter 161. Grandma looked at Fong Yin, then looked at Lu Chaoga and asked in confusion, "Little Lu, what's going on? You don't have to be afraid of him. Just tell me the truth. Grandma will stand up for you." Fong Yin pushed me to the ground and scratched my face. Lu Chaoga said leisurely, "He did it to save me." The green onion in Grandma's hand fell to the ground. Did she hit her grandson for nothing? Did it really have nothing to do with Fong Yin? Fong Yin was finally saved. He stared at Lu Chaoga angrily and roared, "Lu Chaoga, why did you accuse me?" Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yin expressionlessly and said, "Did I say anything wrong?" Fong Yin thought about it. Lu Chaoga really didn't say anything wrong. Grandma asked her if she scratched her face, and Lu Chaoga answered yes. That was the truth. Grandma asked her how she scratched her face, and she said she pushed her down and hurt herself. That was also the truth. He pushed her down and hurt himself because he wanted to save her. That was also the truth. She didn't lie, and she answered all the questions truthfully. But, girl, can you say everything in one breath? How can you play with people like this? Seeing Fong Yan's angry look, Grandma patted his arm again and said dotingly, "You child, what's there to be angry about? Little Lu was just joking with you. Do you need to be so angry? If you were an insignificant person, would little Lu joke with you?" Fong Yin was so wrong that he was about to cry. "Grandma, are you my grandma or Lu Chaoga's grandma? Isn't it too obvious that you're biased? Stingy men are also useless." Lu Gong's eyes were on the flowers and plants on the roadside, and he said stiffly, Okay. Grandma won't ask about you young people's business anymore." Grandma pointed to the shopping bag in Lu Gong's hand and said, "I saw some fresh hairy crabs in the supermarket, so I bought a few of them. I was just about to call you to ask you to come home for dinner tonight, and now we just happened to bump into each other. Chaoga, you too." "Grandma, I don't think that's necessary." Fong Yin refused. "Principal Lu's injuries are serious. We'll have to apply medicine for her later. It doesn't matter. You can take Chaoga to my place first, and then you can go back and get the medicine. I have plenty of rooms at my place, and you can apply the medicine there," said Grandma with a smile. "Principal Lu, you can't eat seafood. I also bought lean meat and white fish. It's just a meal. Why are you being so wishy-washy?" Lu Gong's gaze finally shifted to Fong Yan's face as he said impatiently. After scolding Fong Yan, he looked at Lu Chaoga with a gentle expression and said, "Xiao Lu, let's have dinner together. I have something to talk to you about." "Sure, Principal Lu," Lu Chaoga agreed without hesitation. So Lu Gong led the way with his hands behind his back, and Grandma looked at Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga with a smile. Fong Yin couldn't resist and had to help Lu Chaoga walk toward his grandparents' house. "Why did you do this to me?" Fong Yin complained in a low voice as he walked at the back with Lu Chaoga's help. Grandma had indeed hit him in the head, and his face smelled of garlic. "Did I?" Lu Chaoga asked. Of course, she wouldn't tell him the reason. On the night of the tragedy, he picked her up rudely and threw her on the sofa, which made her already seriously injured body even worse. He grabbed her shoulder and questioned how long she was going to use him. When she took off her clothes in the shower that night, she found that there was a large purplish-red fingerprint on her shoulder. What was even more hateful was that the second before the police broke the door, he suddenly threw himself at her and kissed her lips when she was caught off guard. She was the vice principal of Rosefinch Secondary, and her superior. If she didn't teach him a lesson, where would her dignity be? "You did it on purpose," Fong Yin said fiercely. "Let's see who will help you in the future." The corner of Lu Chaoga's mouth curled up into a charming smile, but it disappeared in a flash. Fong Yin had just settled Lu Chaoga on the sofa in the living room when Grandma urged, "Fong Yin, go back and get the medicine for Xiao Lu. You can't delay it." "Grandma, actually, it's okay to apply it after dinner," Fong Yin said perfunctorily. Lu Chaoga did need to apply the medicine, but the time to apply the medicine was after the shower every night. He just didn't want to listen to Grandma's nagging, so he found an excuse to refuse to come here for dinner. At this time, he really didn't want to go back to get the medicine for nothing. How can that be? Grandma pulled Fong Yin up from the sofa. Hurry up and get the medicine. This is a big deal. What if I get disfigured because of the delay? When Fong Yin left helplessly, Lu Gong looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "How's the schoolwork?" "It's fine," Lu Chaoga said. "That's good." Lu Gong nodded with relief. "Is it difficult?" "Everyone takes care of me. Communicate more. They will understand," Lu Gong said. "I'm not good at communicating. That's why I invited you back." "I won't disappoint the old principal's expectations," Lu Chaoga said. "This is the expectation of the whole school," Lu Gong said. "Fong Yin, he's young and impulsive. He's smart, but he's lazy and lazy. You have to urge him more." "I will," Lu Chaoga nodded. "If he bullies you," Lu Gong thought about it and said, "Tell Grandma." "Fong Yin is very good," Lu Chaoga said. She understood the deeper meaning of the old principal's words. "As long as you say it's good," Lu Gong said. He stood up and said, "I'll go check the kitchen." As soon as Lu Gong entered the kitchen, his wife grabbed his arm and glanced at the living room. She whispered, "Is Fong Yin really together with little Lu?" Lu Gong said with a straight face, "What's there to be surprised about? Little Lu is good. It's Fong Yan's good fortune to be able to be together with her. He found a treasure," his wife said. "I'm just afraid that Fong Yin doesn't know how to cherish it and does things that make people angry." "Why are you, an old woman, getting involved in the matters of young people?" Lu Gong said with his eyes wide open. "You're not getting involved?" "I'm not getting involved." Lu Gong turned around and was about to leave. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and said, "Have a good talk with that brat. Tell him to be more mature in the future." "Damn, old man, you're so stubborn." Grandma grinned. Qiang Longtan's office was very simple. As the chairman and the actual controller of a Long-Tu group, his office conditions were worse than some of the deputy directors in the group. He was even worse than some department managers. The office space was less than 30 square meters. There was a wooden desk and a wooden chair. Behind him was a row of bookcases against the wall. The bookcases were filled with all kinds of books. Other than that, there was nothing else. Most of the time, Qiang Longtan would sit in his office and read. When he read the most interesting parts of the book, he would pick up his pen and make comments in the middle of the book. Since Qiang Longtan loved books, the company's senior and middle management liked to read as well. Moreover, they all liked to borrow books from Qiang Longtan. Qiang Longtan did not reject any of them. Of course, Qiang Longtan had a rule. When borrowing a book, he would specify the return date. After reading the book had to be returned on a regular basis. Then, everyone would discuss the content of the book together. It was a happy and harmonious atmosphere. Whether this habit of borrowing books was sincere or just to please, only the person involved would know. The senior management of the Long-Tu group knew that there was only one senior manager who had not borrowed a book from Qiang Longtan. That was Lu Jing, the chief engineer of the Research and Development Department. Lu Jing was a veteran employee of the Long-Tu group. It was said that when the company had just started, there were only 9 people in the company, and he was one of them. The others were either the general managers of major departments, or the capable ones who had been promoted quickly were now the deputy directors of the company. Of course, Lu Jing was not doing badly. For an energy company, the Research and Development Department was the core industry of the group. It was the most important department. All the other departments were actually serving the Research and Development Department. Therefore, Lu Jing did not borrow books from Qiang Longtan. Although everyone felt that he was a little pedantic or even an idiot, Qiang Longtan had never expressed any ill will towards him. His position was as stable as Mount Tai. As Qiang Longtan was reading a reference book, The History of Hua Xia, written by the Japanese, someone knocked on the office door. "Come in," Qiang Longtan shouted without raising his head. His gaze was still on the open page of the book. The office door was pushed open silently. Secretary Li walked in and said, "Chairman Jiang, Lu Gong wants to talk to you." "Lu Jing?" Qiang Longtan closed the book and said, "He's a rare guest. Let him in." "Yes," Secretary Li replied, turned around, and left. When the office door was pushed open again, a middle-aged man in a white coat appeared in front of Qiang Longtan. His face was full of sideburns, and his hair was messy as if he had not washed it for a month. Lu Jing closed the office door behind him and stood at the office door, chuckling. This scene was both surprising and strange. A company's senior management had entered the boss office, but he did not say a word and only grinned foolishly. What kind of logic was this? Chairman Jiang, I'm here to borrow a book from you, Lu Jing said with a chuckle. Crash! Qiang Longtan pushed a chair away and stood up. He looked at Lu Jing with a serious face and said, Old Lu, what do you mean by this? Aren't you slapping my face? Qiang Longtan, we've known each other for so many years, and you're playing this game with me? Lu Jing still chuckled and said, I can't help it. These days, if you want to be promoted, get rich, and save your life, you have to say a few good words and stuff your head in your pants. What else can I do? Lu Jing, what do you mean by this? Qiang Longtan shouted sternly. Chapter 162. Lu Jing wasn't intimidated by Qiang Longtan's anger. He kept that infuriating smirk on his face and said sarcastically, What do I mean? In order to save my little life, I came to flatter you, Qiang Longtan, just like those other fellows who borrowed books from you to get promoted and become rich. What's wrong with that? What? Am I not good at flattery? Or am I not polite enough? Is that why you're not going to lend me books? I used to be the only one who didn't want to borrow books from you, but now I'm the only one who doesn't want to borrow books from you. It'll be interesting if people hear about it. Qiang Longtan stared at Lu Jing coldly and said, What? Are you suspecting me of what happened to Chaoga? Who else could it be? Lu Jing didn't bother to hide his emotions, and his dark beard quivered as he spoke. Who benefited the most from Lu Mingtu's death? Now, if Lu Xiaoga were to die, who would benefit the most? The one who benefits is the murderer. Is there need to doubt that? Lu Jing, don't slander me. Qiang Longtan bellowed. The three of us have known each other for a long time, and I see you and Mingtu as my best friends. I've never tried to profit from my friend's death. I'm sad about what happened to Mingtu, but I had nothing to do with it. Plus, you know what happened to the company back then, don't you? Mingtu died so suddenly that we had to put our research and marketing plans on hold for the time being. It was a huge loss for me as well. What did I gain? What did I gain? Of course you did. Lu Jing sneered. How big was Longtu Group back then? How big is it now? At that time, Longtu Group was jointly owned by you and Lu Mingtu. Now, it has become the Jiang family's private property. If this isn't a benefit, then what is? The reason why the Longtu Group has developed to such a scale today is because I, Qiang Longtan, have been working hard and doing my best for so many years. It's also because countless Longtu people have fought by my side and contributed selflessly. The Longtu Group's current achievements are due to luck, and it's inevitable. This is the reward for the hard work of me and all the people of Longtu. Qiang Longtan, I know you're eloquent, and I can't win against you. I just came to tell you something. I can stop pursuing what happened to Lu Mingtu. I can't do anything about it, but I'm warning you, don't touch Lu Xiaoga. If anything happens to Lu Xiaoga, I won't forgive you. Lu Jing pointed at Qiang Longtan and threatened. Impudent. Qiang Longtan roared. Lu Jing, do you know what you're doing? Of course I do, Lu Jing said. I also hope you know what you're doing. Lu Jing, Chairman Jiang, do you have anything else to say? You're fired, Qiang Longtan said. Lu Jing looked at Qiang Longtan and laughed. He laughed so hard that tears and snot came out his eyes. Qiang Longtan? Oh, Qiang Longtan, I knew you're not a good person. Lu Jing pointed at Qiang Longtan and laughed so hard that he almost couldn't breathe. You hypocrite, you really are a villain. You're a butcher who talks about morality and loyalty. You're a kind-hearted killer. You got rid of Lu Mingtu in order to monopolize power. Now, in order to cover up your crimes, you want to kick me away. Ha ha. You say we're best friend and brother. Qiang Longtan, is this how you treat your best friend and brother? Lu Jing took out a folded piece of paper from the pocket of his white coat and walked in front of Qiang Longtan. He slapped the paper on Qiang Longtan's desk and sneered. Qiang Longtan, I know you're capable of doing anything. So, I've already written this resignation letter. You don't need to kick me out. I'll resign myself. Now can I leave? Scram. King Long Tan pointed at the door and shouted, You're on your own. Lu Jing stared at King Long Tan with disdain and said, Remember what I said? If anything happens to Lu Chaoga again, I don't care if you did it or not. I'll put it on your head. Lu Jing strode out of the office, knocking against the door with a loud bang. Secretary Li pushed the door open and came in, asking with concern, Mr. Jiang Lu Gong, it's okay. King Long Tan waved his hand and said, He has some misunderstandings about me. Let him calm down. The sky was dark and the rain was hazy. This kind of weather was suitable for daydreaming with a cup of latte in a cafe or sitting under the eaves of the corridor with a copy of Song Ci in hand. There was no need to think or do anything. Along with the drizzle, one's thoughts spread out to a boundless and limitless range. Uncle Lu, how could you quarrel with him? Lu Chaoga said with a face full of guilt. Because of me, you lost your job. I really don't know how to repay you. What's a job? Big Beard Lu Jing said angrily. Your mother and I were classmates and good friends with your father. The few of us came up with this creative project together, and we established a company together. When they got married, I was one of your father's 3 groomsmen. On the day you were born, your father and I waited at the door of the ward. How could I not feel bad when your parents met with such a disaster? How did I get through all these years? I wanted to leave Long Tu for a long time, but I couldn't bear to. Long Tu had my blood, sweat, and tears, as well as your parents' blood. This was the result of all of our hard work. Long Tu is an egg. We personally turned the egg into a chick and watched the chick grow up day by day. I have feelings for Long Tu. However, they had gone too far. I couldn't stop them from laying their hands on your parents in the past. Now, they want to lay their hands on you. I can't take it anymore. If they don't succeed this time, they won't do it again. I might as well shed all pretense of cordiality with them and make them feel some fear. Otherwise, they will be even more lawless. Who can guarantee what they would do next time? Lu Chaoga sighed softly and said, Unfortunately, I don't have any evidence. You can't be too hasty with this kind of thing, Lu Jing said. It's been so many years. You were still young back then. What evidence could you have? So many years have passed. Even if there was any evidence left, it would have been cleaned up by them a long time ago. It's not that easy to find evidence. Uncle Lu, what should I do now? Lu Chaoga looked at Lu Jing and asked in a low voice. He was her elder and her parents' best friend. She was very lost now and needed someone to point her in the right direction. Get the shares back, Lu Jing said. They always put on a bodhisattva face, so you can't do anything. What about themselves? They're cruel and merciless. They're too much of a bully. They're heartless, so we have to be heartless too. You can't hide it anymore. Find a lawyer to negotiate with them and get back the shares that belong to you. You're an adult now and have the right to take over all the shares in Long Tu Group under your father's name. Fong Yin sat next to her and drank his tea, but he didn't interrupt. This was Lu Chaoga's family business. It wasn't appropriate for him to get too involved. Lu Chaoga hesitated and said, If that's the case, Chaoga, people are sinister. Lu Jing comforted her. I know. Qiang Long Tan raised you for more than 20 years, and you have feelings for them. But how did they treat you? They wanted to kill you. Although we don't have any evidence, our feelings won't lie to us. Don't we already know who did this? I think it's better to be cautious, Fong Yin said with a smile. Qiang Long Tan didn't say that he wouldn't give it to them. If Chaoga acts rashly, she might be used by someone with ulterior motives. Lu Jing stared at Fong Yin and asked, Who are you? I'm Principal Lu's colleague, Fong Yin said. Colleague? Lu Jing was angry. He pointed at Fong Yin and said, You're just Chaoga's colleague. What right do you have to make decisions for others? How can this be a child's play? You don't know anything. You don't know how urgent this matter is. I didn't say I was going to make decisions for him. Fong Yin explained, I'm just giving you a suggestion. I'll bring it up, and you guys can discuss it. If you think it's feasible, then do it. If not, then pretend I didn't say anything. How about I wait at the door for a while? Uncle Lu, Fong Yin can be trusted, Lu Chaoga said to stop the two men from arguing. Fong Yin has a point. To be honest, my head is a mess right now. Who did this to my parents? Who wanted to hit me that night? There's no evidence, no clues. If I fall out with the Jiang family, it won't be good for them, but what good will it do for me? If I fall out with the Jiang family, it'll be a huge blow to Long-To Group. Just like Uncle Lou said, Long-To Group is your blood and sweat. And it's also my parents' blood and sweat. All these years, I've never done anything for it, but I can't tarnish its reputation. Soft-hearted, Lu Jing sighed. Just like your parents. If your parents had listened to me back then, they wouldn't have died tragically in a foreign land. Lu Chaoga's face turned pale. She asked anxiously, Uncle Lu, what do you mean by that? If anyone knew the truth, the person in front of her would be one of them. Even Fong Yan's nerves were stirred by this sentence. Could it be that Lu Chaoga's parents had encountered the same difficult choice back then? If that was the case, then who had forced him into such a situation? Fong Yan felt that the fog was about to dissipate, and the twilight of the truth was waving at them not far away. Chapter 163. The raindrops were like pearls, falling densely, as if they would never stop. The banana tree in the corner was thick and vigorous. Its leaves, which were bigger than grass fans, were blown off by the strong wind. A few pots of cacti were still exposed in the rain, using their tenacious vitality to resist the bad weather. In this restless afternoon, there were bound to be some restless events. Lu Jing took a sip of tea, looked at the rain outside, and said, This terrible weather. I wonder when the sky will be clear. People are going to grow mold. The two audience members, Lu Chaoga and Fong Yan, had no intention of continuing the conversation. They hoped that Lu Jing could quickly get to the point instead of talking nonsense. Lu Jing's expression became sad, just like the continuous rainy season that made people feel depressed. There are times when teeth bite the tongue, not to mention two men with different life backgrounds. When Long-To was first established, Qiang Long Tan provided the capital, and your father provided the technology. Qiang Long Tan held 51% of the shares of Long-To Group, and your father held 49%. At that time, your father felt that he had too much and wanted to reduce his shares, but Qiang Long Tan stopped him. Qiang Long Tan told your father that this was a technical company, and that technology was the soul and life of Long-To. He said your father deserved more. Of course, it was their honeymoon period at that time. I heard these things from your mother, because I had not entered Long-To Group at that time. You should know that the core project of Long-To Group is the Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube is mainly used to support some high-tech projects, including ships, warships, or submarines. The Rubik's Cube is your father's work. Your parents had always wanted to commercialize the Rubik's Cube. They hoped to reduce its development costs so that it could be popularized in all aspects of people's lives. For example, computers, mobile phones, home televisions, and other electrical products that require energy. He hoped to bring about a revolution to replace new energy sources. This is the great ideal and ultimate goal of every researcher. However, Qiang Long Tan hoped to rely on it to get a super order from the military. He hoped to completely militarize the Rubik's Cube. In other words, he wanted to develop its power to the extreme, and as for the cost, the military would pay for it anyway. Then, the conflict between the two sides arose. It was when their argument was at its most intense that I entered Long-To Group. I was personally invited to the company by Qiang Long Tan. He hoped that there would be another scientist to compete with your father so that he would know his position and not blindly compete with him, the actual controller. For a long time, my relationship with your father was not harmonious. Your father was a stubborn man, and I was the person chosen by Qiang Long Tan. I had to act. I had to act with him to gain his trust. But from the bottom of my heart, I agreed with your father's choice. The two of us even privately imagined the widespread civilian market of the Rubik's Cube and the impact it would bring to the world. We quickly became friends. Of course, your mother and I have been friends for a long time. Because the research on the Rubik's Cube has encountered a technical problem, both for civilian and military purposes, it can only be temporarily shelved. The relationship between Qiang Long Tan and your father has been restored. There is no conflict of interest. In my opinion, they are even closer than before. If that's the case, Lu Chaoga clenched her fists. Why do they still attack them? I don't know. Lu Jing shook his head. Maybe there are a lot of details I don't know. I only know that after your parents worked overtime for several months, King Long Tan said they should go out for a walk. They chose to go to the place they always wanted to go and never came back. Silence. There was a long silence. Lu Chaoga's face was expressionless, but her hands that were holding the teacup were trembling slightly, as if she was going to crush the teacup in her hands. Fang Yin took the teacup from Lu Chaoga's hand and patted her knee gently. He looked at Lu Jing and said, "You also persuaded Principal Lu's father, Mr. Lu and Jiang Zhulu, to part ways?" Lu Jing's face was a little unnatural as he said, "I did persuade him. Since everyone is not happy with each other, why do we have to eat in the same pot? With Mingtu's ability and the patent of the Rubik's Cube, he can do well anywhere." Unfortunately, Mingtu refused. He said that since he had chosen to cooperate with King Long Tan, he would not easily abandon his teammates. But did he choose the right teammate? He did not betray his teammates, but his teammates completely sold him out. "We still don't have any evidence," Fang Yin said aloud. "There is no evidence to prove that King Long Tan did it." Lu Jing sneered and said, "You haven't dealt with King Long Tan. You don't know how terrible he is." Evidence? How could you find evidence for what he did? Besides, if I had evidence in my hands, I would have reported King Long Tan long ago. Why would I need to swallow it for so many years? Fang Yin glanced at Lu Chaoga and said, "Principal Lu is in a bad mood now. Give her a little more time. Let her think about it again." Lu Jing looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "Chaoga, this is your business. You take care of it yourself. Uncle Lu doesn't mean anything else. I just hope you don't walk the same path as your father. King Long Tan is already diluting your father's shares with shell companies. If you act too late, I'm afraid there won't be anything left in your hands." "Uncle Lu." Lu Chaoga looked up at Lu Jing and said, "Can you help me?" "Me?" Lu Jing looked at Lu Chaoga in surprise. "I've always wanted to help you. I used to be able to provide you with some information, but I have no power or position now, and I'm just a stranger to Loan to Group. What can I help you with? Although you've resigned from Loan to Group, you could be my representative. Help me set up a legal team and negotiate with King Long Tan. Help me get back everything that belongs to me. Chaoga, I've always been in the technical field, and I really can't do this. You should find another trustworthy person." Lu Jing refused. His expression was sincere, and his tone was sincere. "Only you," Lu Chaoga said. "You're the only one I can trust and the right person to do this. Uncle Lu, I'm counting on you." "Fine." Lu Jing gritted his teeth and said, "I don't know much about economics, but I know how to negotiate with King Long Tan." "Thank you," Lu Chaoga said gratefully. After discussing the details, Lu Jing stood up and said goodbye to Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga couldn't stand up to see him off because of her legs. Fang Yin walked him to the gate of the small courtyard. Lu Jing opened the umbrella and said to Fang Yin, "It's raining heavily outside. Let's go back." Fang Yin stood at the threshold and said with a smile, "It's raining heavily outside. Take care. Let's go." Lu Jing waved his hand and walked into the rainforest. Because of the accumulation of rain on the ground, Fang Yin could clearly see that his shoes were soaked as soon as they touched the ground. Fang Yin closed the gate and walked back to the living room. He sat down next to Lu Chaoga, who was staring out the window in a daze, and said, "Are you in too much of a hurry?" "Yes, I am," Lu Chaoga said. "You believe that King Long Tan did it? Right now, all the evidence points to him as the target. Everyone is telling me that he's the murderer." Lu Chaoga said, "Yes." Fang Yin thought for a while and said, "It's like it's been arranged." "Yes, it's like it's been arranged," Lu Chaoga said. "It looks like the pot of water is about to boil. So, I'll pour another bucket of oil into it. Let's see what kind of chemical effect it will have by pouring oil into boiling water." Fang Yin's body leaned weakly on the sofa, and he said, "It must be wonderful, right? I hope that their patience isn't too good. I hope that they won't hide it for too long," Lu Chaoga said. "I hope that it'll be a quick revenge." Lu Jing lived in an ordinary apartment in a residential area, which was very different from his status as a senior manager of Loan to Group. After all, Due to the popularity of the energy sector in recent years, even the income of some department managers was enough to buy a villa around Shisha Mountain. He parked his old Honda that he had driven for several years in the open-air parking lot below the apartment. Just as he was about to open the door and get out of the car, the phone in his pocket rang. He picked up the phone and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. After answering the call, he asked, "Who is this?" Did she agree? A man's voice came from the other side of the phone. She agreed. A hint of a smile appeared on Lu Jing's lips. Even the most vigilant cat has its moments of napping. "Very good," the man said. "I have a present for you." "What present?" "Look up," the man said. Lu Jing was sitting in the car. The car did not have a sunroof, so he could not see anything when he looked up. So, he pushed the door open and took an umbrella from the back seat. Just as he was about to get out of the car to check, a large object fell from the sky. Lu Jing was still holding the large black umbrella in his hand. The umbrella cloth covered his entire body, and he could only tilt the umbrella to see the sky above his head. His eyes were narrowed into slits, and his beard was wet from the splashing rain. The sky was still dark, and the rain was already heavy. Rumble, thunder roared, and lightning flashed. The blazing white lightning tore through the sky, lighting up the dark and oppressive sky like a bright lamp. With the help of that flash of light, Lu Jing finally saw clearly what the thing that was flying towards him was. It was the metal water tank that the property management company had installed on the roof to store water for the tenants. Yes, it was the large water tank that Lu Jing had once touched with his own hands. Chapter 164. The wind was howling and the rain was pouring. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. Countless raindrops were like dense arrows, hitting Lu Jing's fat, pale, bearded face because he had been hiding in the studio for a long time to do scientific research. Everyone had been in the rain. Even if they sometimes felt it was cold, they rarely experienced the pain it brought. But this time, Lu Jing clearly felt it. His skin felt it, and so did his heart. The hair all over his body stood up, and every muscle in his body was stretched to the extreme. The rain was so sharp that it pierced thousands of holes on his face like a beehive. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know if he made a sound. It was like an art film with a muted sound. His ears had lost their hearing. In his world, there was only a moving picture, but there was no corresponding dubbing. The sound of the wind, the rain, and the rustling of the leaves all disappeared. He tried to raise his head. He wanted to see the man on the roof who wanted to end everything, but his vision was blocked by the water tank that was getting bigger and heavier. Bang! The water tank pressed his body under it, and at the same time, half of the car was flattened. The engine on the front of the car was sparking, which was his weak struggle and roar. But the wind and rain were fast, and the sparks were soon extinguished. Perhaps because of nervousness and fear, Lu Jing was still tightly holding the big black umbrella in his hand before he was smashed. When his arm was smashed by the water tank, the handle of the umbrella was also smashed. The umbrella cloth with the broken handle finally broke free, and it fluttered in the wind and rain. It was like a little black flower that was picked and abandoned by someone. Ga. Because of the huge vibration, several cars in the nearby parking spaces screamed. The shrill sound of the alarm rang through the sky. A resident opened the window, poked his head out to look at the ground, and shouted in a sharp voice, "The water tank on the roof has fallen. Someone's car was smashed. Go and see whose car was smashed. Someone's dead. Someone come quickly." The black shadow on the roof took out a monocular. He opened the monocular, and Lu Jing's bloody face suddenly appeared in front of him. Horror, resentment. They also died with their eyes wide open. Of course, to them, the most important thing was that Lu Jing had died thoroughly. The black shadow raised his hand to his forehead in a non-standard military salute, and then turned to leave this dangerous place that would soon become the second crime scene. Clang, the office door was knocked open. Jiang Zhulu anxiously shouted, "Lu Jing is dead." Lu Jing was crushed to death. Qiang Long Tan was standing in front of the office window, holding a book called Heart Sutra in his hands, softly reading it. His expression was calm and peaceful. "Dad, do you know?" Jiang Zhulu asked anxiously. Lu Jing is dead. He had just run into your office and quarreled with you. You just fired him, and he died. Qiang Longtan closed the book, turned around, and glanced at Jiang Zhulu. I know, he said. You? Jiang Zhulu looked at his father, who was so calm that it was almost eerie, and said, You don't have any other reaction? What kind of reaction should I have? Qiang Longtan asked. We've known each other for many years. Lu Jing is a good person, Qiang Longtan said. He's one of the few friends I have. When Lu Mingtu died, I recited the Heart Sutra to him. Now that Lu Jing is gone, I also recited the Heart Sutra to him. I hope they can pass away peacefully, without any pain or conflict of interest in Elysium. But aren't you afraid of the gossip outside? Jiang Zhulu said, flustered and exasperated. I just came back from outside. Many people are saying that this matter has something to do with you. They also said that I did it? Qiang Longtan asked calmly. Yes, Jiang Zhulu said. They said that you're cutting off dissidents. First, you got rid of Lu Mingtu, and now you got rid of Lu Jing. In order to achieve your goal of single-handedly controlling the Longtu group, Qiang Longtan smiled and said, If that's what I'm trying to do, isn't this a little too much? Jiang Zhulio's face was ashen with anger, but Jiang Longtan had a calm look on his face. It was as if the death of a person was just an insignificant matter. At this moment, he realized that compared to his father, who usually didn't talk much and kept silent most of the time, he was still too inexperienced. Jiang Longtan held the Heart Sutra and carefully stroked the rough surface with his palm. He said, They're forcing me. They're forcing me. Dad, call Chaoga and tell her to come home for dinner, Qiang Longtan said. Lu Chaoga had injured her leg and had asked for a few days' leave from school. But Fan Yan's hands and feet were all right, so he had to go to class as usual. Fan Yan's Chinese class was now a beautiful sight in the school. Ever since Class 1 followed the trend and began to carry out situational teaching, the other Chinese teachers no longer put on airs and began to think of ways to make their classes more lively. They tried their best to arouse the students' interest in participating and improve their learning abilities. Moreover, the bet between Fang Yan and Class 1's language teacher, Zhang Yu, had been spread throughout the school by some people with ulterior motives. The students of the two classes would compete in the next final exam to determine their overall score and average score. The loser would have to read an apology written by the winner on the school radio. Zhang Yu was a well-known teacher at Rosefinch, while Fang Yan was the most popular teacher in the school. One was a model of old-fashioned teaching, while the other was a practitioner and promoter of fancy teaching. The final exams were in a week. Who would be the real champion? Who would win the real honor? This time, it wasn't just a competition between Fang Yan and Zhang Yu's abilities, but also a question of which was more suitable for survival, the traditional way of teaching or the new way of teaching. Most people favored Zhang Yu because Zhang Yu was a senior teacher in the school. More importantly, his students were the cream of the crop. In terms of overall quality, the students of Class 1 were far better than those of Class 9. Class 1 is doing a pre-exam simulation, and Zhang Yu has given us 14 test papers to help the students guess the questions. The students of Class 1 have been working very hard every day, and Zhang Yu has used a despicable tactic to beat us. Mr. Fang, don't we have to do anything? Huang Haoran asked worriedly. He was the language representative of Class 9, and since Class 9 had made a bet with Class 1, he naturally had to take the lead. Not only did he have to find a way to boost everyone's morale, but he also had to find out the opponent's actions and strength through various connections. However, while Class 1 was busy winning this competition, their Mr. Fang had no idea how to deal with it. It was as if what he had said that day was just a casual remark, and he had completely forgotten about it. Therefore, Huang Haoran had to take the initiative to communicate with Mr. Fang after class, trying to find out his true thoughts. Is there any meaning to it? Fang Yan asked with a smile. If you rely on doing your best to win this competition, have you really memorized all of it? Can you apply what you have learned? Can you turn this knowledge into a kind of culture, a kind of gene flow into your blood and become one with you? We don't have to do anything. I believe you will be the final winner. Mr. Fong. Huang Haoran was touched. Okay, go back to class, Fong Yin said. Mr. Fong, don't worry, we definitely won't let you down. I said, I believe in you. Fong Yin nodded. Oh yes, remember to pass on what I said just now to the students. When Fong Yin came back, Lu Chaoga was standing in front of the window looking at the scenery. She was expressionless, and there was something in her eyes that Fong Yin couldn't understand, but it made his heart palpitate. Fong Yin put away his umbrella and walked in front of Lu Chaoga, asking, Why don't you go in and sit? Your leg hasn't fully recovered, so you can't stand for too long. What do you want to eat tonight? Lu Jing is dead, Lu Chaoga said. What? Fong Yin was shocked. At noon, they were still sitting together chatting, and he even walked him to the entrance of this small courtyard. He also told him to pay attention to the wind and rain outside. He only went out for 2 classes, and he hadn't even finished one article. How could a living person suddenly die? Was life so fragile? Fong Yan's expression became serious, and he said, They are now crazy and have completely lost their minds. They want me to lose my mind, Lu Chaoga said. So, the more it is at this time, the more we need to stay calm. Jiang Zhulu called and asked me to go home for dinner tonight, Lu Chaoga said. Asking you to go home for dinner at this time proves that Qiang Long Tan wants to have a showdown with you, Fong Yin said. It's not convenient for you to go home for dinner at this time. Shall I go with you? Okay, Lu Chaoga said, Come with me. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan ran out of the room. Fong Yingying looked at Fong Yin and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, shall we go with you? Okay, let's go together, Fong Yin said coldly. Just think of it as improving our lives. Fong Yin turned to look at Lu Chaoga and said, I heard that you rich people eat steak and drink red wine for dinner. Chapter 165. The speed of the police investigation was extremely fast. In less than 24 hours after the accident, they had already found the car involved. They found the car in an abandoned factory compound. Of course, the driver who caused the accident had already escaped. That night, there was a heavy rain, which was the most natural cover. The rain had washed away many important traces, and even the tire tracks had disappeared. This had indeed increased the difficulty of solving the case. The car owner's information was also found. The car owner's name was Han Dongsheng, and he was the boss of a small construction team. He parked the car at the entrance of the construction site, and then stayed in the construction site to play cards with the workers. He had no idea that his car was lost, and he didn't know that his car had become an accomplice to a serious murder in the short period of time it was lost. Because there was a card player who testified for him, Han Dongxing's suspicion of the crime was cleared. But who stole his car? This was still an unsolved mystery. The senior police officers in the police team compared the video that was taken when the car was driving. They found that the driver in the driver's seat was wearing a black shirt, a black hat, and a black mask. There was no way to restore his true appearance. Moreover, because the weather was too bad at that time, with a howling wind and heavy rain, the video was too blurry. It was difficult to even tell whether the driver was a man or a woman. You can't find any clues? Fong Yin asked. We can't find any clues, said Wang Dazhong, who was in charge of the case. Because this case involved Lu Chaoga, Jiang Zhulu had informed the leaders of the Huaqing Municipal Public Security Bureau. With the pressure from above, the police officers didn't dare to slack off. They also gave full respect to Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga, who came to question the case. But this is only temporary. Because the car is only one of the clues, our people are also looking for suspects with a motive. The other lines are also following up at the same time. I believe that we will definitely catch the criminal as soon as possible and give Miss Lu an explanation. Fong Yin looked at Lu Chaoga, then said to Wang Dazhong, I want to see the surveillance video of the crime scene, Sky 1. Is that okay? Wang Dazhong looked troubled and said, I am one of the victims and also a witness. Maybe I can give you some clues after watching the video, right? Lu Chaoga glanced at Wang Dazhong and said, let him take a look. All right then, Wang Dazhong said. Let's watch the video together again. We've studied this video dozens of times. Wang Dazhong invited Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga to the reference room and instructed the staff to play the video of Lu Chaoga being hit at the entrance of Sky Number 1 Hotel on the big screen. From the moment the Toyota appeared on Sky 1 surveillance camera to the moment it mysteriously disappeared, only 2 seconds had passed. The content of the video flashed before their eyes. The parking lot was on the dimly lit side of the hotel, and the surveillance equipment was not advanced enough. The image they could see was indeed a blur. After watching the video, Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga felt that they didn't see anything. Yes, there was nothing. Can you play it in slow motion? Fong Yin asked. Slow motion, Wang Dazhong said to the technician. So, the video, which was only a few seconds in total, was slowed down and stretched, and it appeared in front of Fong Yin again. Stop! Fong Yin suddenly shouted. The technician immediately pressed the pause button, and the image of the black Toyota that had just appeared in the camera was instantly frozen. It was dark, and the rain covered the glass, adding a layer of protective film to it, making it impossible to see the driver's face. Lu Chaoga, Wang Dazhong, and the elites in the criminal investigation team all stared at the picture, but they didn't see anything unusual. Zoom in, Fong Yin said. Zoom in on the driver's seat. The technician heard Fong Yan's words and immediately did the corresponding action. Because the picture was constantly zoomed in, the pixels were infinitely diluted, and the image that could be seen became more and more blurry. Restore to the original state, Fong Yin said again. The technician adjusted the picture to the normal scale again. The pixels were clearer, but they still couldn't see anything strange. Is there a problem? Wang Dazhong asked doubtfully. Look at the steering wheel, Fong Yin said. What's wrong? Wang Dazhong looked at the steering wheel of the car and said, We have studied this 2-second video countless times. Did you find anything? There is only one hand on the steering wheel, Fong Yin said. Only one hand. Everyone's eyes were focused on the steering wheel. The technician also followed everyone's request to zoom in and out of the picture in that area, and then zoom in again and again. He kept repeating this action. Under Fong Yan's reminder, everyone found that there was indeed only one hand on the steering wheel. Does this mean anything? Wang Dazhong asked. We all know that when a person is doing something very important, he or she will focus all of his or her attention on a single point, even if he is a professional killer. The wind is so strong, the rain is so heavy, the vision is so blurred, and the wheels may slip at any time. In order to improve the success rate of the mission, shouldn't he hold the steering wheel with both hands at the same time? He's a disabled person? Wang Dazhong asked in disbelief. Their detective work had never gone in this direction. They never thought that a disabled person would have such a deep hatred for Lu Chaoga that he would insist on killing her with a car. Yes. Fong Yin nodded. A disabled person. Rain was the city's natural cleaner. After a heavy rain, the whole city looked clean and green. Huacheng was a little chilly in November. Lu Chaoga put on a long windbreaker. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan put on sportswear, and Fong Yin tied a plaid scarf around his neck. He was not cold, but he felt that it was more artistic. Lu Chaoga still could not drive, so Fong Yin became her full-time driver. Under Lu Chaoga's guidance and the navigation, Fong Yin finally parked the car in front of the Jiang family's house. Hearing the car horn outside, the housekeeper opened the door. Seeing Lu Chaoga get out of the car, the housekeeper greeted her warmly. Miss Lu, you're back. Madam didn't go out to play mahjong today. She's been waiting for you. Lu Chaoga nodded and walked to the living room with Fong Yan's help. Ren Jin was watching TV on the sofa in the living room. Seeing Lu Chaoga come back, she greeted her with a smile. Chaoga, you're back. Any run. Lu Chaoga greeted Ren Jin with a straight face. Chaoga, come sit here. Ren Jin walked up to Lu Chaoga, held her hand, and said, Let's sit and talk for a while. Your uncle and Zhu Lu are still at the company. They said that they have an emergency meeting. Chaoga, where have you been these days? Your uncle Jiang came back and said that you had a car accident, and I was scared. Why didn't you come back to tell me about such a big thing like a car accident? Do you know how worried I was? Your phone is always turned off. It really makes me anxious. Are you hurt? You have a few cuts on your face. Are you okay? It seemed that the Jiang family had been very kind to Lu Chaoga. Anyone who didn't know the inside story would never doubt that the mother and daughter weren't their biological daughter. "I'm fine," Lu Chaoga said. "That's good. I'm glad you're fine." Rin Jin looked relieved and said, "Chaoga, I don't mean to criticize you, but you can't do this again. You have to discuss it with everyone, and you can't bear it alone. Aren't we a family? Don't be so polite to us." "I will. This incident has also taught us a profound lesson. Chaoga, you have to be careful when you make friends from now on. Don't let anyone you don't know get close to you. In this world, there's no lack of those toads who want to eat swan meat, people who want to reach the sky in one step. It's too hard to work. Who doesn't want to reap without sowing? You can't judge a book by its cover. Some people are willing to do anything to achieve their ulterior motives. You're still young and inexperienced, so you don't understand. Some people lie for money, some for sex, and some for feelings. What's the point? It's all for their own financial ends." From beginning to end, Rin Jin didn't even glance at Fong Yin or Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan, who were standing on either side of him. She treated the three of them like they were invisible, and her attitude affected the nanny as well. According to the rules of the house, the nanny had to make tea for the guests as soon as they arrived. But should she make tea or not? Rin Jin ignored Fong Yin, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haoan, but when she chatted with Lu Chaoga, she attacked and condemned Fong Yin with every word she said. In her heart, Fong Yin was just a schemer who was like a toad lusting after a swan's flesh for no reason. For some reason, she was filled with hostility towards Fong Yin. Fong Haoan glanced at Fong Yin, then at Rin Jin. Taking Fong Yingying's arm, he said, "Hero, I'm hungry. I want to eat." "Then let's fill our stomachs," said Fong Yingying. Hence, Fong Haoan went over to the coffee table, picked up the glass that Rin Jin had been drinking tea from, took a big bite out of it, and started chewing. Chapter 166. Kacha, kacha, kacha. And no one spoke again, and they even forgot to breathe. In addition to the voice of a popular female singer who was singing passionately through the national talent show, there was only this creepy sound of eating glass. Moreover, the voice of the female singer had been completely ignored. There was only one rhythm and one sound in everyone's ears. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Rin Jin's eyes widened and her mouth opened wide, looking at the man who was chewing glass in disbelief. Was he really eating the glass that he used to drink tea with? How could such a thing be eaten? Wasn't he afraid of cutting his throat? The nanny's psychological endurance was even weaker. She pointed at Fong Haoan and trembled without saying a word, as if she had seen a ghost. It was also the first time that Lu Chaoga saw such a heroic side of Fong Haoan. She looked at Fong Yin with a surprised expression, thinking, what kind of strange people are this guy's friends? The most normal reaction was Fong Yin and Fong Yingying. They were used to Fong Haoan's behavior. Fong Haoan eating glass was not new, but Fong Haoan not eating glass was weird. Originally, Fong Yin thought that eating glass in other people's house was a very impolite behavior. But because Rin Jin was very rude to him, Fong Yin thought that it was a good thing to let Fong Haoan eat 2 glasses of his. At least, Fong Yin felt very happy when he saw Rin Jin's shocked and scared expression at this moment. Fong Yin was a kind man. He couldn't stand others making him feel wronged. Kacha. After Fong Haoan ate a small half of the glass, the soaked tea leaves in the glass and the small half of the cup of tea became a burden. Hero Fong thought for a moment, then tilted his head back and drank the tea in one gulp. Then he poured the tea leaves into his palm and put them into his mouth, chewing noisily. Rin Jin's face turned green. This is the cup she used, this is the tea she drank. Is this rogue indirectly kissing me? You? How can you eat those tea leaves? Rin Jin said angrily. Fong Yin felt that this woman's perspective was really unique. She didn't care why others ate the cups, but she cared why others ate her tea leaves. Was it common sense that tea leaves were harder to digest than glass? It's okay. Don't worry about him. Fong Yin comforted her. Tea leaves are rich in polyphenol, amino acids, and catechins. They're good for the body. Kacha. Fong Haoan stuffed the rest of the glass shards into his mouth. After chewing and swallowing, He wiped his mouth and said to Fong Yingying, I'm not full yet. Fong Yingying patted Fong Haohen's shoulder and said, leave some room for steak and fruit salad. Ren Jin felt that her heart was twitching. Listen, what are these two guys talking about? They ate my cup, drank my tea, and now they want to eat my family steak and fruit salad. You? Ren Jin pointed at Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen and shouted, get out of here. Our family doesn't welcome you. Fong Yingying looked at Fong Haohen with a complaining look and said, I told you to bear with it. Look at how angry you are. Old lady, don't be angry. It's easy to get wrinkles when you're angry. How about we ask Junior Marshall Uncle to buy you a glass? Old lady? Ren Jin felt like she was struck by lightning. Everything else was ignored by her. Her mind kept repeating the three blood-red words, old lady. Old lady? How could they call her old lady? She had beautiful black hair, pink skin, bright eyes, and she also had well-maintained buttocks and breasts. How could he call her an old lady? Ren Jin's first reaction was to immediately find a mirror and look at herself in the mirror to see if there was anything wrong with her dress today. Otherwise, why would someone be so blind as to mistake a flirtatious, mature woman like herself as an old lady? Fong Haohen, who was accused by Fong Yingying, felt extremely wronged and argued. Hero, you told me to eat something to fill my stomach. I did say that, but didn't you see the old lady was angry? Lu Chaoga. Ren Jin finally exploded. She shouted with a sharp voice and pointed at Fong Yin, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haohen and said, who are these people? What kind of scoundrels are they? What did I tell you just now? Don't make friends with those people you don't know. You just brought them home to anger me. Lu Chaoga, I usually treat you well, and this is how you treat me? Do you want to anger me to death? Annie Run, I didn't mean that. Lu Chaoga said, good. You didn't mean that, did you? Lu Chaoga pointed at Fong Yin and said, let him go. Let them all go. I don't want to see them. I want them to disappear in front of my eyes immediately. Auntie Run, they're my friends. Lu Chaoga said. Ren Jin calmed down. She stared at Lu Chaoga with burning eyes, and then looked at Fong Yin, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haohen as she sneered and said, I understand. Lu Chaoga, are you bringing people back to flaunt your strength? Annie Run, I don't understand what you mean. Lu Chaoga said. You don't understand? Lu Chaoga, you don't remember, do you? I took you to have your IQ tested a long time ago, and I clearly remember your test results. You are such a smart woman. How can you not understand what I mean? Don't take things that happened when you were young seriously. Ren Jin said mockingly. That is to say, all these years of raising and taking care of you were fake. I didn't mean that. Lu Chaoga, it's not that you don't understand, it's that you don't have it. If you have the ability, say it frankly. Why are you hiding it? Don't worry. You brought these three clowns to protect you. I can't beat you in a fight, but I can't beat you in an argument. You are safe. Lu Chaoga looked at Ren Jin and asked a question clearly. How did my parents die? Ren Jin was speechless. Lu Chaoga said softly, it's useless to tell you. Lu Chaoga. Ren Jin looked angrily at Lu Chaoga and said, I understand. You have always hated us, always suspected us. You always thought that we killed your parents. Am I right? You suspect the people closest to you? Your mind is really vicious. No wonder you always put on a dead face. No wonder you always ignored us. No wonder you didn't want to come back after you went abroad. No wonder you didn't want to accept when I wanted to betroth you to Jiang Zhulu to make us closer. So it's because of this. So many years of love are going to be erased just because of your suspicion? Lu Chaoga, do you have a conscience? Are you cold-blooded and heartless to this extent? Lu Chaoga looked at Ren Jin and said, Aunt Run, what do I have to say to make you understand? You don't have to say anything. I already understand. How do I express myself to make my counterattack more powerful? Lu Chaoga continued to ask. You do treat me well, but there's a hint of hypocrisy in your smile. You don't treat me well because you like me, but because of your status and reputation. I understood this a long time ago. How many times have you quarreled with Uncle Jiang because of me? How many times have you suspected that I had an improper relationship with him? You told everyone that I was the best candidate for your daughter-in-law. Didn't you want to cut off the possible relationship between me and Uncle Jiang? Do you think this is how you treat me as your own daughter? You're good to me. Uncle Jiang is good to me. Jiang Zhulu is also good to me, so my life should be arranged by you. What should be said, what shouldn't be done. It's all up to you. I wanted to study abroad after high school, but you all opposed it. Didn't you agree in the end? What kind of effort did I put in for this? Lu Xiaoga asked. You forcibly took me back from the United States. Did you care about what I thought? You forcibly arranged for me to be your daughter-in-law. Did you consider my feelings? Or do you care whether I like him or not? Yes, it's because you treat me well that I can't resist. Because my parents died early, I was raised and taken care of by you. I have to live for your wishes. Is that right? Do you understand how I feel? Every time you peel an apple for me, I will think about what you are going to ask for me. Every time you personally cook a bowl of noodle soup for me, I have to think about what kind of deal is behind this bowl of noodle soup. So, I don't want to talk more and more. My life is getting more and more depressed. Every day when I wake up, I feel that my skin is stiff, the air is thin, and even breathing is difficult. Andy Run, do you know that I have depression? Do you know that I've seen psychiatrists? Do you know that I've thought about suicide? Rin Jin's expression was dull. She really didn't know about this. Fang Yin was also stunned for a moment. The strong and cold principal Lu actually had the thought of suicide. She also had such a weak moment. Even so, you still think that I don't know how to be grateful and that I'm heartless to you all. Lu Xiaoga looked at Renjin like a knife and said, Annie Run, I think you don't understand what is called gentle violence, right? Chapter 167. Phew. After saying these words, Lu Xiaoga took a long breath of fresh air. Too easy. Too comfortable. How many years had it been? The long days and nights. The days that felt like years. The words that she held back in her heart that were difficult to say. The thorn in her bone almost tortured her to the point that she was about to go crazy. She was like a silkworm cocoon wrapped in a thin membrane. She wanted to scream. She wanted to struggle and twist with all her might. She wanted to tear everything apart and destroy it. But in the name of love and protection, the thin membrane made it difficult for her to move. Finally, she said what she wanted to say. She was free. Rin Jin's face was as pale as paper. She stared at Lu Xiaoga with deep resentment and said, I didn't expect that I still raised an ungrateful wolf. Well, Lu Xiaoga, since our Jiang family made you so uncomfortable, since we treated you so badly, then tell me, what are you doing back this time? Uncle Jiang asked me to come back for dinner, Lu Xiaoga said. Come back. Rin Jin sneered. Lu Xiaoga, what do you mean by coming back? Come back to your own home. Then come back. What you said just now has separated yourself from this family. You're no longer a member of this family. You're just a guest, and a guest who is not welcomed by the host. So, as the mistress of this house, please bring your lowly friends out. Fang Yin was angry and said, We are Lu Xiaoga's friends, but we are not dirty. Fang Yingying was also very angry. He slapped Fang Haohen's head and said, Fang Haohen, go eat another glass. Fang Haohen looked at Fang Yin pitifully, not knowing whether he should eat or not. Aunt Rin, don't call me Aunt Run. Rin Jin angrily interrupted Lu Xiaoga's words and coldly said, Lu Xiaoga, from today onwards, the kindness between us is severed. From now on, we are just strangers, Rin Jin. Lu Xiaoga clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Please respect my friend. Get lost. Rin Jin pointed at the door of the villa. Get out, all of you. Rin Jin turned around and shouted at the nanny. Are you stupid? Call security. No need. Lu Xiaoga said aloud. We can walk by ourselves. After that, Lu Xiaoga turned around and walked out of the villa. Just now, when Rin Jin called them scum, Fang Yin did not retaliate. Fang Yin felt that he had suffered a loss. Now that he was about to leave, he naturally couldn't leave with a grievance. Fang Yin slapped Fang Haohen's head and shouted, Fang Haohen, eat all the glasses in their house. Fang Haohen was shocked and said bitterly, Junior Marshal Uncle, I'm afraid I can't eat. Then pack it up and take it away. That's good. Fang Haohen was happy. He really wanted to find the Jiang family's glasses to eat. Let's eat. Renjin laughed wildly. Eat. Eat enough. Eat it all. If you can't finish it, then you're a son of a bitch. Junior Marshal Uncle, she's cursing. Fong Haoan said. Then hit her. Fong Ying shouted. So, Fong Haoan rushed toward Renjin angrily. Go ahead. Renjin stood there proudly, raising her beautiful face that could be broken by a single blow. She looked at Fong Haoan with a sneer and said, Slap me if you can. Fong Haoan was stunned. He turned to look at Fong Yin and said blankly, Junior Marshal Uncle, did I really slap you? Slap. Fong Haoan was slapped in the face. After Renjin slapped Fong Haoan, she stared at Fong Haoan with disdain and said disdainfully, Who do you think you are? Get out of here. Lu Chaoga stopped at the door of the living room. The smile on Fong Yan's face froze. Fong Yingying's fat face was quickly filled with anger. Bitch, I'll tear you apart. Fong Yingying flew into a rage. He and Fong Haoan were like brothers. Their relationship was much deeper than ordinary people. Hero Fong was bullied and humiliated. This slap in the face was more painful than slapping himself in the face. Fong Yin smiled gloomily and said, A real man must do what he says. After listening to Fong Yan's words, Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan were like tigers and wolves that were released from their shackles. They angrily rushed toward Renjin. Slap! Slap! Hiss! The two slaps were the sound of Fong Yingying slapping Renjin. Hiss was because Fong Haoan, this simple and honest person, actually reached out and grabbed Renjin's long skirt. With just a light pull, the shoulder strap was split into two. Half of Renjin's shoulder was exposed to the air. It was snow white and smooth like a young girl. The purple bra strap left a clear flesh mark on her smooth and tender back. It made people look like they were full of the desire to conquer. Time stopped at this moment. Lu Chaoga's mouth was round and round. She looked at this scene in disbelief. The muscles on Fong Yan's face twitched. His eyes were sparkling as he stared at Renjin's sexy shoulder and the equally sexy bra strap. I just said it casually. Why did you really tear it? Fong Yingying trembled with excitement. This man. Renjin's expression was the calmest. She was angry to the extreme, so she was calm to the extreme. She stood there with a face full of arrogance. She stared coldly at Fong Haoan and said, Tear. Continue to tear. Fong Haoan looked at Renjin's eyes. He felt that this woman had a strong power that he couldn't see but could feel. Lu Chaoga came over and put the silk scarf on Renjin's shoulder. She said, My friend didn't do it on purpose. I think he probably didn't expect such a thing to happen. She turned to look at Fong Yin and said, There are video surveillance cameras in all the public areas of this villa. There were surveillance cameras? If Renjin insisted that Fong Haoan was plotting against her, it would be really difficult for Fong Haoan to clear his name. Fong Yin quickly jumped out to explain and said, Yes, Fong Haoan is a bit stupid. He usually likes to do stupid things. Which normal person would eat a glass? Isn't there something wrong with his brain? Lu Chaoga glanced at Renjin and said, Since we are unwelcome guests, my friend and I will leave first. Lu Chaoga turned to leave, and Fong Yin quickly walked over to support her, who was still walking unsteadily. Fong Haoan looked at Renjin timidly and said, I didn't expect your clothes to be so fragile. They were torn with one tear. I didn't mean that. Let's go. Fong Yingying grabbed Fong Haoan's arm and said. Fong Haoan turned around and looked greedily at Renjin, who had an inviolable expression, and said, She is so beautiful. I want to find a wife like her in the future. Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga had just walked to the small courtyard of the villa. Before they had time to get into the car, the door of the villa opened again. Clatter. The electronic door extended to both sides, and then a black Bentley stopped at the gate of the courtyard. The bodyguard in the passenger seat quickly got out of the car, and Jiang Zhilu got out, followed by Qiang Long Tan, the chairman of the Longta Group. Qiang Long Tan saw Lu Chaoga standing by the car and said with a smile, Did Chaoga just get here? I'm going back, Lu Chaoga said. Go back. Qiang Long Tan was surprised. Didn't we agree to have dinner together tonight? I rejected several social engagements just to come back and have a good meal with you. What? You don't want to give me this chance? I told her to leave. Renjin appeared at the door of the living room with a silk scarf draped over her shoulders and said, "They are unwelcome." "Nonsense," Jiang Longtan scolded. "Zhaoga is our family. She's our family. How could she be unwelcome?" Renjin looked at Qiang Longtan with a sneer on her face and said, "Qiang Longtan, even if you dig out your heart and liver and feed them to them, it's just like throwing a meat bun at a dog. If you're interested, I have a recording of what she said just now. You can listen to it carefully. You treat her as your family, but she thinks that your home is a prison and wants to run away immediately. Let her go. If she becomes depressed or commits suicide again, who will bear the responsibility?" Qiang Longtan turned his eyes to Lu Chaoga and asked her if what she said was true. Lu Chaoga nodded and said, "Uncle Jiang, let me go. I don't want to have dinner with her. I don't think anyone has an appetite now." Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan both wanted to say that they had an appetite. They had been busy for half a day and were still hungry. But Fang Yin stopped them with a look. They swallowed and didn't say anything in the end. Jiang Longtan heaved a deep sigh and said, "Family harmony brings prosperity to all things. I'm responsible for the mess at home. Well, since I can't eat anymore, let's sit down and talk about something. I have to discuss this matter with you personally." Lu Chaoga looked at Qiang Longtan and asked, "What is it?" Jiang Longtan's brows deeply furrowed as he solemnly said, "A lot of things have happened recently. First, you were attacked, and then Lu Jing died suddenly. To be honest, I'm under a lot of pressure. I, Qiang Longtan, can say that I have a clear conscience, but I still can't ignore everyone's views and criticism. Everyone outside is saying that I'm the one who did it. They say that I killed him in order to control the whole Longtu group. I know that I'm not that kind of person. The reason why I haven't made that decision is because I think that the power of the whole is the strongest and the most competitive." Qiang Longtan looked at Lu Chaoga with a gentle expression and kind eyes, as if he was looking at his most beloved daughter, and said, "I just held a meeting with the company's top management, and a lawyer notarized it on the spot. I'm going to transfer your father's shares to your name. In other words, I'm going to give you half of the Longtu group. You deserve it." Chapter 168. Half of Longtu? Fang Yin opened his mouth slightly, his face full of surprise and joy. What surprised him was that Qiang Longtan was really willing to give away half of Longtu. Although Lu Chaoga's father, Lu Mingtu, had founded Longtu Group with Qiang Longtan, and the company name Longtu was taken from Qiang Longtan's and Lu Mingtu's names, Lu Mingtu had used his technology to invest in the company. Moreover, due to his untimely death, the Lu family had long been separated from Longtu Group. The reason why Longtu Group could develop to its current scale was almost single-handedly created by Qiang Longtan. It could be said that Qiang Longtan was fully deserving of the soul and king of Longtu Group. However, Qiang Longtan was actually willing to split the product of his hard work into two and give it to the daughter of an old friend. What surprised him was that with the current market value of Longtu Group and the possible future profits, Lu Chaoga would become a millionaire overnight. Fang Yin originally thought that he had hugged a thick thigh, but in the blink of an eye, this thick thigh had become a giant thigh. As long as Lu Chaoga took over these shares, her name might appear on the next Forbes World's Richest list. In this case, Lu Chaoga would be too embarrassed to take back her Rosefinch courtyard, right? Fang Yin was already full of expectations for his future life. As long as he continued to curry favor with Lu Chaoga and maintain a close friendship and comradeship with Lu Chaoga would bring him to eat, drink, and sleep with big breasts. The problem was, did Qiang Longtan's actions prove that he was really not the murderer who killed Lu Chaoga's parents? Fang Yin felt that his IQ was not enough. The situation in front of him was getting more and more confusing. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, these two idiots, didn't understand what Qiang Longtan's words meant. Fang Haohan's eyes occasionally glanced at Renjin, who was on the steps. The more he looked at her, the more he felt that this woman was interesting. Fang Yingying was trying to persuade him to give up on this idea, telling him that the women in the city were tigers and that he should avoid them at all costs. Jiang Julio's expression was calm. It seemed like he already knew about his father's actions. Instead, Ren Jin's expression changed greatly, and he snapped, "Kang Long Tan, have you discussed this with me before you made such a decision?" Kang Long Tan glanced at Ren Jin and said with a smile, "What's there to discuss? Didn't I just say that? This is what Chaoga deserves." Deserve? Ren Jin sneered. Then it's really easy for her to earn money. What has the Liu family done for Long Tu all these years? What has Liu Chaoga done for Long Tu? When you were working overtime at the company day and night, she was studying and traveling in the United States with a designer bag on her back. When you were begging for help with a glass of wine in your hand, she was fulfilling her dreams and hobbies at school. Who developed Long Tu? Without you, Kang Long Tan, would Long Tu be what it is today? Would Long Tu be what it is today? Would Long Tu be as valuable as it is today? She was living a pure and innocent life, and everyone took care of her. Now you've given away half of Long Tu with just a few words. Kang Long Tan, let me tell you, I don't agree. Kang Long Tan smiled bitterly and said, Ren Jin, don't make trouble out of nothing. I've already held a board meeting before I came back, and now this decision has been approved by the board. Make trouble out of nothing? Ren Jin's expression was extremely ugly. Anyone who heard that their husband had given away billions of assets to someone else would have such a reaction. Moreover, this was a woman she hated very much. At that time, the investment in Long Tu was made by me. According to the laws and regulations of joint property, I own half of your shares in Long Tu. So, I also have the right to vote. My attitude is that I don't agree. Okay. Kang Long Tan's expression turned serious and said, I'll explain this to you later. That's settled. Kang Long Tan turned around and shouted, Jiang Zhulu. Jiang Zhulu came forward and took out a document from the file bag in his hand and handed it over. Kang Long Tan took the document and handed it to Liu Chaoga, saying, Chaoga, take this document back and have a look. The shares will take effect after you sign it. Liu Chaoga's expression was calm, but she looked at Kang Long Tan thoughtfully. Take it. Kang Long Tan smiled warmly and said, although this sounds a little distant, we'll be working partners from now on. Liu Chaoga took the document from Kang Long Tan's hand and said softly, Thank you. You really do owe me a thank you. Kang Long Tan nodded and said with infinite emotion, I've indeed invested too much in Long Tu group time, energy, and everything. Fortunately, we're still a family. Long Tu won't be divided. It's still a strong whole. Yes, Liu Chaoga said, Long Tu won't be divided. It's still a whole. It's always been like that. Jiang Zhulu walked up to Liu Chaoga, smiled elegantly, and said in a very gentlemanly manner, Chaoga, congratulations. To be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable with my father's decision. That's half of Long Tu we're talking about. But I still have to congratulate you. As my father said, you deserve it. The Jiang family isn't as greedy as people think, and we don't covet other people's things. Now that you've gotten back what belongs to you, I hope you'll be able to let go of the knot in your heart and be truly happy. Pausing for a moment, he glanced at Fang Yin beside him and said, Also, I want to say that I haven't given up. My pursuit of you has just begun. Why are you saying that? Kang Long Tan waved his hand and said, I'm innocent. There's nothing to explain. But I won't get involved in your pursuit of Chaoga. That's between you young people. Chaoga, there's something I need your help with. Once the contract comes into effect, we'll need to hold a press conference to announce the change in ownership. Is that okay with you? No problem, said Liu Chaoga. Good. Kang Long Tan nodded. It's settled then. If it's not convenient, I won't force you to stay for dinner. I'm tired. I'll let Zhulu drive you. Kang Long Tan waved his hand and walked up to Ren Jin, who was standing on the steps, looking exhausted. Liu Chaoga's car started up slowly, and the light from the back of the car shone on the wall, Kang Long Tan, Ren Jin, and Jiang Julio's faces. The light flickered on and off, and the expressions on their faces changed. It had been raining for a few days, and the nights in Huacheng were damp and cool. 19 Step Street used to be narrow and short, and people who had nothing better to do would only need 19 steps to walk the entire length of the street. Of course, 19 Step Street was no longer what it used to be. It was now one of the busiest streets in Huachin. A young man and a young woman walked on 19 Step Street, attracting the attention of countless onlookers. Some people even took out their phones and tried to take pictures of them. The girl looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. She wore a simple white dress, a pair of red leather shoes, and a long leather shawl. She didn't have any accessories on her, but everyone who saw her felt that she was elegant and noble, and they forgot about the world. The man standing next to her gave off a strange feeling. He was slightly older than the girl, and he wore a white casual outfit. He couldn't be considered handsome, and his facial features weren't exquisite. His eyes looked a little too small, his lips looked a little too thick, and his nose didn't meet the standards of a male god that girls expected. However, when all these flaws were put together, it gave off a feeling of perfect harmony. He wasn't cold or handsome, but he had a unique aura. Even when he was walking with the girl next to him, no one thought that he would lose points or be a flower stuck in cow dung. They should be together. That was what everyone thought. The two of them walked aimlessly, their eyes focused on the road in front of them. They didn't look left or right, nor did they have the intention to shop. They looked more like they were walking than shopping. "You're so boring," Qin Tian said. The man smiled shyly, revealing two deep dimples on his face. He touched his nose and said embarrassedly, "Many people say that. You said you want to see the night view of Huachin. That's why I brought you out. I've already seen it." The man nodded and said, "Every step we take is the night view of Huachin. Have you really seen them? The people on the street, the dense crowd, the men and women walking towards us or brushing shoulders with us. Do you really think you've seen them with your own eyes?" Qin Tian said with a cold smile, "I'm really curious. What kind of people can catch your eye? We've walked 749 steps on this street. There are 212 men, 1,656 women, and 19 children. There are 3 mothers carrying their children and 1 pregnant woman." She continued, "We've walked 749 steps on this street, and there are 212 men, 1,656 women, and 19 children. Oh, we walked past 2 Nike stores and 2 opticians. I didn't pay much attention to the rest. After all, I'm really not very interested in these things." The man said with a smile. He still looked like a shy little boy when he smiled. Qin Tian sighed softly and said, "They say you have a photographic memory and that your mental calculation ability is unparalleled in the world. Looks like it's true. You also have a lot to learn from me," the man said. "The people around me keep telling me that. What do you think you need to learn from me?" Qin Tian asked. "I don't make tea as well as you do, don't dress as well as you do, don't have a grasp of fashion, don't sing, don't dance, and don't even like to talk." The man lowered his head and said, "I think I have too many things to learn from you, right? But you're Jiang Junling." Qin Tian curled his lips and said, "Huaxia's hero Jiang Junling. Not every outstanding young man can get such an evaluation, right?" Chapter 169. The Tao addict, song transplanting seedlings, once said, "Jiang Junling is the first hero of Huaxia." He also said, "The son should be like Jiang Junling, and the adopted daughter must be like Qin Tian." Because the Tao addict's skill in judging people was the best in the world, Jiang Junling and Qin Tian, who were greatly praised by him, immediately became famous. Even the young people who had the same status as them, or who had even more illustrious family backgrounds, were far behind them in terms of influence. The Tao addict praised Jiang Junling twice in a row and flattered Jiang Junling as the first hero of Huaxia. But he also put Qin Tian in the same position as him. Therefore, Qin Tian's status also rose and became a shining pearl. After listening to Qin Tian's words, Jiang Junling's shy face became more embarrassed. He shook his head and said, "There are many talents in Yanjing, and heroes are like carps crossing the river. Huaxia is a big place with many talents. How can Jiang Junling dare to say that he is the first hero?" Qin Tian also felt the same way and said, "The Tao addict is harmful." The two benefited from the words of the Tao addict. They could get more attention from all forces. As long as their performance was eye-catching, it was easy to get everyone's approval. With all kinds of resources piled up, it would be hard for one not to become a dragon or phoenix among men. However, they also suffered because of the Tao addict. They were still young and had a free and unrestrained heart. Being stared at by so many pairs of eyes, they also felt a great pressure that could penetrate through any opening. As long as we don't take its false reputation seriously, others won't take us seriously. Jiang Junling said, "The best thing humans are good at is forgetfulness. It's boring to talk to you." Qin Tian said. Jiang Junling smiled and said, "You are the first person to talk to me like this. Others may think so, but they have never said so." Qin Tian ignored him and turned to walk into the alley next to the pedestrian street. This alley was a street of snacks. There were juice shops, fruit shops, fried ice shops, fishball shops, and even more barbecue shops. 10 o'clock at night was the time when the barbecue stall's business was at its peak. Countless men and women gathered around the square tables, ordering a few skewers of lamb, chives, and eggplants to go with the wine, playing finger-guessing games, and having a great time. Qin Tian found an empty table and sat down, then shouted, "Boss, order." The proprietress came over with the menu. When she saw Qin Tian's face clearly, she was stunned. The eloquence that she had developed over the years in the night market suddenly disappeared. It was as if she had suddenly lost the ability to speak. She wanted to praise Qin Tian, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. For the first time, she felt that praising someone was actually a form of blasphemy. Qin Tian took the menu and began to look through it. Then he ordered quickly 4 skewers of beef, 4 mutton skewers, 2 chicken feet, 2 corn, 2 chives, and a portion of sea white bean sprouts. "Give me 2 mugs of draft beer." "Thank you." "Miss, you alone. I'm afraid you can't finish so much," the proprietress kindly reminded her. Qin Tian pointed at Jiang Junling and said with a smile, "I have companions." "Oh, then I'll go prepare now." The proprietress smiled fawningly and trotted away. Qin Tian waved at Jiang Junling and said, "It's my treat tonight." Jiang Junling smiled, but didn't say anything. He stood far away from the barbecue stall and didn't want to move. He didn't want to sit on the greasy stool and accompany Qin Tian to eat the barbecue food of unknown origin. "Jiang Junling, you still can't put down that stinky attitude?" Qin Tian said sarcastically. "My attitude isn't stinky. How can it be stinky?" Jiang Junling said with a smile. "Enjoy it. I'll wait for you." "How boring." Qin Tian looked at Jiang Junling and said. At that moment, the beer that Qin Tian ordered was served. She picked up 2 mugs of beer and walked straight to the group of men at the next table. She said, "Are you guys playing finger guessing? Count me in." As she spoke, she had already picked up a plastic chair with her foot and sat down. She put the beer on the table and said, "Can we start now?" Silence. Dead silence. The pupils of the blonde, skinny boy expanded. The acne on his pigtail opened his mouth wide. The azure dragon tattooed on his left arm and the heavenly wolf tattooed on his right arm. The big fatso who bragged to his friends that he wanted to drink the strongest alcohol, eat the fattest meat, and use the sharpest sword to fuck the sexiest woman, just like the protagonist of a novel by Gulong. Everyone looked at Qin Tian in surprise, looking at the woman who suddenly appeared in front of them. They were a little nervous, a little scared, but most of them didn't know what to do. This woman, she can't be a female demon, right? Knowing the background of the people at the table, the lady boss was worried that the delicate girl would be at a disadvantage sitting with them. She was about to come over and give her a friendly reminder, but the scene that unfolded in front of her left her puzzled and confused. The most vicious and greedy gangsters of the 19th Street welcomed such a fat sheep with this kind of attitude? What? You don't want to? Qin Tian raised her eyebrows and asked. Her frown made the hearts, livers, lungs, and other organs of the gangsters melt. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf looked at Qin Tian carefully and said, "Girl, we don't know what kind of game you like to play. I'm fine with any kind. You guys can teach me." Qin Tian said. "Then let's play the 15 to 20 game we just played. Up to you. Start. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf shouted loudly. The others were also excited. With such a goddess on the scene, who wouldn't be on their best behavior? What was that saying again? When men and women pair up, drinking is only enjoyable. While Qin Etienne and the gangsters were having fun drinking and playing finger-guessing, Jiang Junling was standing at the place where he had just stopped. His clothes were immaculate, his hair unruffled, his back ramrod straight. He maintained a calm and gentle smile on his face. Even if he had to wait for a long time, he wouldn't look anxious at all. It was only a few meters away, but it was like standing in two different worlds. After drinking the beer, he ordered more. After eating the barbecue, he ordered more. As time passed, it was late at night. Qin Etienne finally stood up. "Lady Boss, please pay the bill." Azure Dragon Sky Wolf shouted heroically. "Let me do it." Qin Etienne stopped him. "We just agreed that this meal is on me. Sister Tian, this is what we men should do." Azure Dragon Sky Wolf wanted to fight for it again. "You can also pay the bill," Qin Etienne said. She pointed to the Lady Boss and said, "Pay her back the money you owe." The Lady Boss's face changed and said anxiously, "No need. It's really not necessary. You guys are giving us face by coming here for a meal and a bottle of wine. We can't wait to be happy. It's for us to warm up." She wasn't being modest. She was afraid from the bottom of her heart. These gangsters often fought with each other if they didn't agree. They would smash the tables and chairs, smashing their stall. If they didn't want to pay for the damage, then their hard work for several days would be in vain. If these gangsters just ate and drank, it wouldn't be a big problem for them. You want them to pay? Isn't that suicidal? Listen to what you're saying. Do you think we don't need your money for a meal? Azure Dragon Sky Wolf said with a red face. Since Sister Tian said so, we have to pay. Not only this meal, but also all the money we owe you before. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf took out a bunch of banknotes from his trouser pocket and stuffed them into the Lady Boss's hand without counting them. He said, "You count first, we'll pay if it's not enough." He then pointed to the lackeys around him and said, "You guys also take out your money." As a result, the lackeys opened their bags one after another. One paid 210 and the other paid 350. They stuffed the money in their pockets into the Lady Boss's hands. The Lady Boss didn't dare to take it, but she also didn't dare to not take it. She was in a dilemma where to stand. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf understood the Lady Boss's thoughts and said, "I know what you're worried about. You're worried that we'll take revenge." "I'm not. I'm really not." The Lady Boss's explanation was very weak. "Lady Boss, don't worry. We won't take revenge. Absolutely not. Not only will we not take revenge, but from today on, your stall will be under my protection. If anyone dares to fight here and eat without paying, they'll have to ask me first if I'm willing." Azure Dragon Sky Wolf looked at Qin Etienne and said, "Sister Tian, I know you're not an ordinary person. Don't think that I'm uncultured. My eyes have never been wrong. It's my great fortune to be able to meet Sister Tian at this barbecue stall and to be able to drink and play finger-guessing games with us. It's also the fortune of my brothers. I'm a grateful person. I met Big Sister Tian at Lady Boss's barbecue stall and got the chance to drink with Big Sister Tian. So, I'm going to repay Lady Boss's kindness now. Does Big Sister Tian feel at ease now?" Qin Etienne smiled and nodded. She looked at Azure Dragon Sky Wolf with her beautiful eyes and said, "I've never doubted you." Qin Etienne waved at them, and the group of gangsters shouted affectionately, "Sister Tian, take care." The autumn wind was bleak, and the Lady Boss stood in the wind with a handful of banknotes in her hand. Qin Etienne walked right past General Jean, not bothering to greet him. Jiang Junling took the initiative to follow him and said with a smile, "Qin Etienne, do you think this kind of life is interesting?" "Interesting," Qin Etienne said. "I like this kind of life." "Jiang Junling, you're not down to earth." "Why do I have to be down to earth?" Jiang Junling said with a smile. "We and them are not the same kind of people. You sit with them, you drink and play finger-guessing games with them, you call them brothers. But you're still above them. You're always looking down at them, and they're always looking up to you. Isn't that the case?" Jiang Junling smiled brightly, revealing his snow-white teeth, and said, "They can't enter our world, so I won't easily cross into their world. Chapter 170. So you always maintain a high and mighty attitude, like a god? Qin Tian asked. Your so-called fusion, isn't it just another form of being high and mighty? Wherever you go, you change the fate and direction of some people and things. Just like that lady boss. You're also a god. The difference between us is that I am a god who does not do things, and you are a god who does things. I'm not a god, Qin Tian said. God is too far away. Have you seen Marvel movies? I am a god with power, just like the hero in those stories. I have such power, why don't I use it to change the fate of some poor people around me and the final outcome of some sad things? I like the feeling of change, as if seeing them reborn in front of my eyes. Jiang Junling smiled and said, I am different from you. After watching those movies, I want to destroy the world more. Destruction is more fulfilling than change. Otherwise, why do people like to smash cups when they are angry? Don't work together when we have different goals. But many people hope that we can finally come together. General Ling smiled and said, that old man Song Zhanqing said that his son should be General Ling's wife, and his adopted daughter must be Qin Tian. That in itself was a sinister move. Who do you think ordered him to do that? Who can instruct Tao Addict? There will always be someone. Jiang Junling said with deep eyes. If there is a dragon, there must be a dragon slayer. If there is a real god, there will also be a god slayer messenger. In a place that we can't see with the naked eye. Are you a man of power? No, I'm a man of profit. There is no lack of such people in this world, Qin Tian said. But those people are not willing to admit that they are such people. That's because they're still talking about money at a low level. We're talking about numbers. Jiang Junling, you are so arrogant. Qin Tian, you are the same. Qin Tian's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said, Jiang Junling, let me introduce you to a friend. A very interesting friend. Friend? Jiang Junling had just asked when he realized that Qin Tian had already walked quickly towards a Hunan restaurant by the roadside. Jiang Junling smiled and followed behind him. Fang Yin, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haoan were burying their heads in the food. They were worthy of being the experts from the old Tai Chi family. The way they picked up the food and the speed at which they picked up the food was beyond the reach of ordinary people. They had wanted to go to the Jiang family's house to eat well-done steak, bread, and dessert, but the Jiang family refused to provide them with food. On the way back, they stopped at the 19th Street for lunch. They planned to go back to sleep after lunch. No one was cooking at home. Lu Chaoga rarely moved her chopsticks. She didn't know if it was because she wasn't interested in the hot and spicy food in front of her, or because she was thinking about her own matters. She had just obtained half of Loan 2 and became a super rich woman with billions of funds. There were indeed a lot of things she needed to figure out. The most urgent problem was, how was he going to spend so much money? If Fang Yin encountered such a problem, he would definitely be anxious to death. Fang Yin looked up at Lu Chaoga and said, You don't like spicy food, right? Don't worry, I ordered a vegetarian dish for you. There is a vegetarian dish? What vegetarian dish? Fang Yingying asked without looking up with a greasy piece of boiled meat in his mouth. Tiger skin pepper. You guys eat. Lu Chaoga said, I'm not hungry. You still have to eat a little, Fang Yin said. Only with a good body can you inherit a good fortune. Didn't it say on the internet? The most tragic thing in the world is to have money but not a person. Fang Yin. Someone shouted behind him. Fang Yin turned around and saw Qin Tian pushing open the glass door and coming in. Fang Yin looked at her in surprise and asked, Qin Tian, why are you still here so late? Eating, Qin Tian said. She looked at Fang Yingying and Fang Haoan, and then looked at Lu Chaoga. She took the initiative to greet and said, Hello, Principal Lu. Lu Chaoga nodded to Qin Tian and said, Hello, Qin Tian. Lu Chaoga was no stranger to the #1 student in the school. I don't think I'm disturbing you guys, am I? Qin Tian asked with a smile. You'd better go back quickly, Fang Yin said. Being called by his own student in front of his immediate superior, Fang Yin felt his self-esteem was hit. It would not be good if Lu Chaoga misunderstood that the students in the 9th class didn't respect him. Therefore, he wanted to send Qin Tian away as soon as possible. We're going back after eating. Let me introduce you to my friend. Qin Etian glanced at Jiang Junling, who was standing not far behind, and said, Jiang Junling, although I know you're not interested in meeting him. General what? Fang Yan's eyes widened. Jiang Junling, Qin Etian said. You came out to meet your online friend? Fang Yan was shocked. He stood up, looked at Qin Etian, and said in a low voice, Qin Etian, you have to be careful. The media often reported that girls were cheated of money and sex when they met online friends, and some even lost money and sex. I read a newspaper 2 days ago that a girl's phone was stolen by a male online friend when she was taking a shower after having sex with him. How hateful. How could she chat with others on WeChat without her phone? There were even more tragic things that Fang Yan was too embarrassed to say. A girl took the train for more than 10 hours to Yanjing to visit her online friend. As a result, the online friend treated her to a 6 yuan spicy hot pot, but had sex with her 12 times in one night. Qin Etian smiled and said, he's not an online friend, and Jiang Junling is not an online name. His surname is General, and his name is Jiang Junling. Fang Yan looked a little embarrassed and said, this surname is quite rare. There is a surname General among the 100 surnames? I'll have to study it later. Qin Etian pointed at Fang Yan and introduced him to Jiang Junling. Fang Yan, the language teacher of the 9th class, the man I like. Jiang Junling smiled at Fang Yan from afar, but he didn't want to shake hands with him. In his eyes, Fang Yan and he were not the same kind of people. Since they were not the same kind of people, why should they be forced to be together? Your boyfriend? Fang Yan asked. There was a sour feeling in his heart. Qin Etian used to like him for no reason at all. Why did she suddenly fall in love with someone else? A person should have a beginning and an end. Okay? Even if I don't like you. I didn't stop you from liking me. What do you think? Qin Etian's eyes were full of smiles, hidden joy, and shyness. Qin Etian could be shy. Seeing Qin Etian's shy look, Fang Yan's heart sank even more. He looked at Qin Etian earnestly and said, Student Qin Etian, you are a student. Students should focus on their studies. As your language teacher and the head teacher of the 9th class, I have to tell you seriously, you can't have puppy love. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Junling again and said, Mr. General, this surname is really different. Mr. General is an adult, your thinking is more mature, and your understanding of the world is more comprehensive and profound. I think, as a responsible man, we should give girls more time. Wait until they grow up and mature, then listen to their heart's choice. Is that right? Yes, Jiang Junling said with a smile. Mr. General's character is admirable. I believe you are a good man. You will definitely find your true happiness. Fang Yan said. As for who that true happiness was, no one knew. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, I think so. If other people don't agree, I think she will be in a difficult position. What do you mean? Fang Yan looked at Qin Etian. Which parent would be willing to rush their daughter to find a husband before she grew up and matured? Qin Etian smiled and said, maybe he thinks that my parents will be worried about me not being able to get married. How can that be? Fang Yan said angrily. What kind of parents would do that? When will your parents be home? I'll pay them a home visit and talk to them. They're not in Huacheng. Qin Etian refused. But you will definitely meet them. I promise. I'm a teacher. No matter how busy they are, they have to make time to meet me, right? Fang Yan said. I also want to talk to them about your studies and performance in school. The results you've achieved, the problems, and the areas that you hope to improve. It's really difficult, Qin Etian said. Even if the mayor of Huacheng wanted to meet her parents, it would be extremely difficult, right? But you could talk to me about these problems. Fang Yan was not willing to talk to Qin Etian. He knew that it was useless to talk. Qin Etian looked at Fang Yan and said with a smile, Enjoy your meal. I won't disturb you anymore. After nodding at the others, he turned around and walked out. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and followed behind Qin Etian. It's really beautiful. Fang Yingxiong praised sincerely. Renjin is beautiful too, Fang Haoan added. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said, Actually, our Principal Lu is the prettiest. Principal Lu, You'll be leaving Rosefinch soon, right? If you go to Loan 2, will you bring a secretary or assistant with you? You know, I'm a language teacher. Today, I'm going to recruit people of talent and family. I think I'm qualified for this job. Believe in my sincerity. Believe in your eyes. I'll bring you a comfortable and satisfied smile. Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yin and asked, "Why do I have to leave? Don't tell me you still want to stay in Rosefinch?" Fong Yin asked in confusion. How cool would it be to be the deputy director of Lonta Group? It would be much better than staying in Rosefinch, right? Before I understand a lot of things, I won't leave Rosefinch, Lu Chaoga said. Rosefinch can be my Rosefinch, but Loan 2 is someone else's Loan 2. Chapter 171. What do you think? Qin Tian asked. What do you mean, what do you mean? Jiang Junling asked. What do you mean? I'm not a Tao addict, and I don't know how to judge people, Jiang Junling said with a smile. As long as you're human, you'll judge people, Qin Tian said. Some people bet on a lifetime of happiness, while others bet wrong and lose everything. Jiang Junling smiled and said, gentle, violent. Oh, Qin Tian looked at Jiang Junling in surprise and said, did you know him before? No, I didn't. We just met once, and you have such an evaluation. Gentle refers to his appearance. He's a language teacher, a young and good-looking language teacher. It's not an exaggeration to say that he's casual and elegant. Such a teacher stands on the podium and talks about the country. He must be very popular among girls, right? However, he has a strong desire to break the rules. There are two kinds of people in this world. One is the people who live within the rules. They find their most comfortable position under all kinds of rules. Once they touch the red line, they will immediately shrink back and readjust their posture and direction. The other kind of people will trample and avoid it. When they feel troubled by the red line or blocked by the rules, they will cross the red line and break the rules to get where they want to go and get what they want. He's the same kind of person as me. Jiang Junling rarely praises others. Qin Etian squinted and smiled. She knew that Fong Yin was indeed the kind of man who would cross the line. His teaching method was different from others, and his style of doing things was unique. He never stuck to the old rules, and he would surprise people within a controllable range. When he saw me, there was a slight contraction of his pupils. This was because he regarded me as an imaginary enemy. Let me ask you, we met for the first time. Why would he be hostile to me? Because he treats you like a treasure. He doesn't like to see other men encroach on you. That's what he thought. He immediately used his identity as a teacher to warn you not to fall in love at such a young age. In the name of righteousness, he told me to wait for you to grow up and mature. If you didn't listen to his advice, it would be disobeying your teacher's orders. If I refused, it would be considered as not loving you enough. A single leaf in autumn. If he encountered something else, what kind of counterattack would he make? It seems that you have just fought a battle, Qin Tian said. Yes, a man's war. Jiang Junling nodded. In that case, Qin Etian smiled even more happily, and her pretty face was incomparably gorgeous. If I work a little harder, I could still take him down, right? I don't think you ever doubted that. Qin Etian walked even more arrogantly and said, Jiang Junling, sometimes you are not so annoying. Thank you. Jiang Junling said, this is the most sincere compliment you can give me. The two of them walked to the entrance of a large shopping mall. Qin Etian stopped and said, I hope you have a good time in watching. After saying that, he got into a GMC limousine that had been prepared a long time ago. The limousine blended into the rolling traffic and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Jiang Junling stood there for a minute, and a black Mercedes-Benz drove in front of him. The back door opened, and a handsome young man walked out. He said respectfully, Welcome to Huacheng, young master. Huacheng is just looking at flowers. You don't have to be so nervous. Loan to group, in the media interview room. Mr. Jiang, we would like to know why you suddenly decided to give half of the shares of Loan to group to your adopted daughter, Lu Chaoga. A middle-aged male reporter wearing glasses stood up and asked. Qiang Longtan sat there in a cultured and elegant manner, with a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. No matter how one looked at it, This was a man who could move people's hearts. He lowered the microphone a little and said with a smile, "Mr. Reporter, there are two problems with your question. First, I did not suddenly make this decision. Instead, I made this final decision after a long period of careful consideration and the collective discussion of the Loan To Group's higher-ups. Second, I do not want to give half of the shares of Loan To Group to Miss Lu Chaoga, but to return it. Just as I said to her, she deserves it." Mr. Jiang, according to reliable sources, it is said that Miss Lu Chaoga was involved in a premeditated car accident when she was eating at Sky Number 1 a few days ago. Also, the former chief engineer of Loan 2, Mr. Liu Jing, also submitted his resignation letter to you after a big argument with you. What's even more shocking is that he died in an accident on the day he resigned. A female reporter in a black business suit stood up. Because this female reporter's explanation was too long and tedious, and she had asked such a sensitive and sharp question, everyone present focused their attention on her and Qiang Longtan. The head of the public relations department of Loan To Group, Fu Mingli, looked at Qiang Longtan with a questioning gaze. As long as he gave the slightest hint, he would immediately cut off the female reporter's question. Unfortunately, Qiang Longtan maintained a calm and composed smile, as if he had already expected such a question to appear. "So, we really want to know if Mr. Zhang's decision to return the shares to Miss Lu Chaoga at this time was due to pressure from the media and the outside world? Or is it like how the outside world interpreted it? Mr. Jiang has a guilty conscience?" The audience was silent, and everyone looked at Jiang Longtan with burning eyes, waiting for his response to this question. Qiang Longtan's fingers were interlocked, and his eyes looked straight into the eyes of the many reporters below the stage. He said, "It's definitely unrealistic to say that I don't care about the media reports and the outside world speculations. Qiang Longtan is a person who cherishes his reputation, and he's also a person who cares about his reputation, who would want to become a murderous demon in the eyes of others. In any case, I don't want to. Of course, this isn't the main reason," Qiang Longtan said with a smile. "Miss Lu Chaoga is sitting next to me at this time. She can prove to everyone that when she just returned from studying in the United States, I suggested that she enter Loan To Group to work. When she was familiar with the company's affairs, I would give her a more important position and let her take on more responsibilities. I could even completely take over Loan To Group. It's entirely possible. However, Miss Lu Chaoga refused. Some of my ideas can only be put aside for now." Everyone present knew that a clenched fist was more painful than an open palm. I hoped that the Loan To Corporation would be a whole. I didn't want it to be split into two when the energy industry was flourishing and developing at such a rapid pace. This is irresponsible to my personal career, irresponsible to Loan To Group, and irresponsible to Miss Lu Chaoga and my friend's parents. Previously, I didn't return the shares to her because I felt that it wasn't the most suitable time. Now, I'm returning the shares to her because I feel that the time is just right. Today, I invited all the media friends here to explain this fact to you." "Mr. Jiang, you mean that you have nothing to do with Miss Lu Chaoga's car accident and Mr. Liu Jing's death?" The female reporter stood up and asked. "Yes." Qiang Longtan's voice was incomparably firm as he said, "I have nothing to do with those things at all. I am willing to accept the supervision of society and the investigation of the law. Miss Lu Chaoga, you suddenly have 49% of the shares of Loan To Group. You will become one of the richest women in this country. How do you feel now?" The reporter pointed the spear at Lu Chaoga, who had been sitting beside Qiang Longtan and had been silent and unusually low-key. Lu Chaoga raised her head and glanced at the excited female reporter. Her voice was calm as she said, "This is the wealth that my parents left for me. I am very grateful to have such a gift. It can change my life and my whole life. However, my greatest regret is that they didn't give it to me personally, because I really miss them. Miss Lu Chaoga, you are now the vice principal of a famous school. After you have obtained 49% of the shares of Loan To Group, you will become the largest shareholder of Loan To Group after Mr. Qiang Longtan. Will you give up your position as vice principal and join Loan To Group because of this?" I won't, Lu Xiaoga said decisively. At least not now. Lu Xiaoga turned sideways to look at Qiang Longtan and said, Uncle Jiang is a very capable person. Because of his many years of hard work and selfless contributions, Long2 Group can achieve what it has today. I have always been by his side, and I know the hard work he has done. I also believe that as long as he is here, Long2 Group will achieve even more dazzling achievements. So, I'm willing to let Uncle Jiang take care of Long2 Group. As for me, I will still be doing my favorite education career. Everyone should do what they are good at. Uncle Jiang and I have a clear division of labor. Qiang Longtan also looked at Lu Xiaoga lovingly and said in a slightly blaming tone, Xiaoga, you should have discussed this with me before making such a decision. I hope that you can enter Long2. I need your help. Uncle Jiang, I have made up my mind, Lu Xiaoga said. Let's talk about this when we get home, Qiang Longtan said with a smile. One was a kind and considerate father, and the other was a confident and independent daughter. They behaved so intimately and lovingly that it instantly shattered all the speculations and bad rumors that the outside world had about them. Long2 Group was still an inseparable entity. In front of the computer, a woman sneered as she watched the live broadcast of Long2 Group's press conference. She said in a hoarse voice, Qiang Longtan, this is only the first round of victory. Chapter 172. Some people advocated light, while others preferred darkness. This was an abandoned agricultural machinery factory. Because no one had used it for a long time, there was a damp and moldy smell. There were no lights in the factory, only an old TV flickering with a blurry shadow. This was a football match between Chinese teams. There was no passionate running, no violent collisions, and no dazzling dribbling of the ball past people. They were always listless, as if they did not sleep well last night. Coupled with the horizontal bars and black shadows that appeared from time to time on the TV screen, due to the quality issues, most people would have long given up on the TV. However, his eyes were watching with relish, and his expression was unusually serious. He held a can of beer in his hand and took a sip from it from time to time. Then, he picked up 2 peanuts and threw them into his mouth to chew. It was really a great enjoyment. At this moment, he suddenly stopped chewing. Who is it? The man shouted with a mouthful of peanuts in his mouth. Because there was too much foreign matter in his mouth, his voice was a little unclear. It was quiet inside and outside the factory. Only the sound of the wind blowing through the grass outside could be heard. The man threw the can of beer in his hand towards the nearest window, but did not hear the sound of the can falling. Whoa! He picked up the chair on the ground and smashed it towards the window. He quickly hid in a dark corner of the room. Clang! The chair hit the window and the dusty glass shattered. How could such a good beer be lost? A clear voice came from outside. Creak! The heavy iron door of the factory was pushed open from the outside, and a black shadow slowly walked in. At the same time, the wind and moon rushed in. The factory finally became clearer, but the corners of the walls were still dark. Old monster, come out, Fang Yin said with a smile. He put the can of beer in his hand on the table and said, You are surrounded. Come out and let's have a good talk. The old monster did not make a sound, still holding his breath and hiding behind the pile of scrap metal. Do you not believe that you are surrounded, or do you not want to have a good talk with me? Fang Yin said aloud. Hero, give him a warning. The hero has arrived. A round head appeared by the window on the left. The hero is here. A simple and honest man's voice rang out from the window on the right. There were a total of 4 windows in the factory. 2 of them were blocked by a pile of scrap metal, and the other 2 were blocked by heroes. Coupled with Fang Yin, who was attacking from the front, the old monster was indeed surrounded. Can we talk now? Fang Yin stood still in the distance, but his eyes were fixed on the place where the old monster was hiding, as if he wanted to drag him out from the deep shadows. What do you want to talk about? The old monster's hoarse voice came from the darkness. He knew that his current situation was not good. He would not give up without a fight, but he was willing to solve the problem through peaceful communication with Fang Yin. Talk about why you want to kill me, Fang Yin said with a smile. I'm a man who is easily interested in new things, especially when it concerns my life. I want to get to the bottom of it. I know very well that we have never met before. Why did you attack me on the Shishia mountain? The old monster fell silent once again. You lured me out through my student and then attacked me at the Tiger Leaping Gorge. You guys have been scheming in advance. Why don't you tell me who ordered you to do this? I didn't tell you last time, and I won't tell you this time either, the old monster said. The honor of an assassin? Fang Yin laughed. What kind of bullish asterisk T honor is an assassin? You're just taking someone's money to get rid of a disaster. Don't think that all assassins in the world are good men just because of the movie This Assassin is Not Too Cold. You guys have never been merciful when you kill your wives and children. It's an assassin's rule, the old monster said. It's more important than honor. Honor would earn one respect, but the rule was something that one had no choice but to follow. If one violated the rule and sold the employer's personal information, one would be hunted down by the Assassin's Guild and other assassins. The former might live, but the latter would die a horrible death. Most importantly, they did not know the employer's information. It seems like we can't come to an agreement. It's either life or death. This is the fate of an assassin. The old monster said firmly. I've already mentally prepared myself before I entered this profession. The worst that can happen is death. So, you don't care about her life? Fang Yin asked with a smile. As they were talking, Fang Yingying pushed a woman who was tied up all over. The woman was the old monster's lover, Little Goblin. You deserve to die, the old monster roared fiercely. Clang. Following the roar, there was the sound of something hitting a piece of scrap metal. Then, the old monster, who was wearing a casual black outfit, walked out from the shadows. One of his hands had been cut off, leaving only a fleshy arm hanging there. They were the famous old monster and little goblin team in the world of assassins. Some people called them old monsters. On Sunset Mountain, they used Zheng Guodong, Liang, and Chun Tao as bait to kill Fang Yin at Tiger Leaping Gorge. Fang Yin was strong enough to capture the old monster. When he forced the old monster to reveal who the mastermind was, the little goblin suddenly cut off one of the old monster's hands. The two of them jumped off the cliff and escaped. Later, when Fang Yin and Lu Chaogo were eating at Sky Number 1, a car suddenly dashed toward them from behind. Fang Yin desperately pushed Lu Chaogo away and luckily saved his life. However, the security guard, Lu Jinju, who was holding an umbrella for them, was hit and killed. Fang Yin was extremely sad and tried his best to find the truth. When he went to the police station to check the video, he noticed that the driver only used one hand. There must be a reason why he used one hand to control the steering wheel at such a critical moment. Fang Yin knew 2 or 3 disabled people, but the old monster was the only one who had a broken hand. The old monster had already attacked him on Sunset Mountain. At this time, Fang Yin naturally had a reason to think of him as the enemy. Fang Yingying and Fang Haoen hadn't found a job yet. Since they had nothing to do, Fang Yin sent them to look for the whereabouts of the old monster and the little goblin. The old monster's broken hand needed a lot of medicine to treat it. Fang Yingying and Fang Haoen set their sights on the medical centers and clinics in the city. They didn't expect that after a few days, they really found some clues. The two of them closely monitored the little goblin for 2 days. Finally, the little goblin came to buy medicine again. They informed Fang Yin in time. The 3 of them followed the little goblin and finally subdued the slippery little goblin in a hidden place. I deserve to die. Fang Yin sneered. You deserve to die. Didn't you just say that? Before you entered this industry, you were already mentally prepared. What? Are you mentally unbalanced now? It seems that you haven't prepared well enough. What kind of hero is kidnapping a woman? Come at me if you can. I'm not a hero, Fang Yin said with a smile. He pointed at the heroes who were escorting the little goblin and said, They are. What do you want? I want an answer, Fang Yin said. Tell me the answer. I'll let her go. This is the deal between you and me. Silence. Crack. Fang Yingying pulled the little goblin's hand hard. One of the little goblin's arms that was tied behind his back was broken. Ugh. The little goblin's mouth was blocked by a rag, so he couldn't scream. However, The groan from the pain was like a thin needle that pierced deep into the old monster's heart. Let her go. Give me the answer I want, Fong Yin said again. You should know that I like to play quick questions and quick answers. Last time, you were the one who paid the price. This time, fortunately, it's still you. I believe that abandoning your teacher for a woman must be true love, right? I really don't know who wants to kill you, the old monster screamed. We always contact our agent when we receive jobs. The agent gives us the target's information. Then we search for the target's whereabouts and look for an opportunity to make a move. I don't know who the employer is. I'm not satisfied with this answer, Fong Yin said. Crack. Fong Ying moved again, and another arm of the little goblin was broken. The little goblin groaned in pain again. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his expression became twisted. The old monster's eyes were angry and cruel. He stared at Fong Yin fiercely, like a wounded hyena staring at its prey. Let her go, and I'll agree to any of your conditions. I said, tell me the answer I want. Fong Yin said, I'll let her go immediately after I get the answer. Who wants to go against a woman? I don't know the answer, the old monster said. I can agree to anything except the answer. Doesn't that violate your assassin's code? Fong Yin said with a smile. I don't care, the old monster said with red eyes. Fong Yin squinted his eyes and smiled. Do you know that your value in my heart is only whether you can give me the answer I want? If you can't give me the answer, you've lost your only value in my heart. I won't cooperate with a B***starred who tried to kill me twice in a row. Fong Yin stretched his right foot forward, bent his body slightly, and made a gesture of holding the moon in the wind with his arms. He said, for Lu Jinju, for Lu Chaoga, and for Xiao Bao. You don't know who Xiao Bao is, do you? He's Lu Jinju's son. Lu Jinju was an innocent security guard who was killed by your car. I promised Lu Jinju that I would avenge him. Please cooperate with me, and don't make me break my promise. Chapter 173. Under the bright moon and cool breeze, in the old factory in the wilderness, a great battle was about to break out, and the atmosphere was shockingly cold. Fong Yin got into a fighting stance, waiting for the old monster to take the initiative to attack, one to save his partner, and the other to fulfill his own lies. They all knew that this was a battle of life and death. Of course, Fong Yin thought that if he really couldn't beat the old monster, Fong Ying and Fong Haohan could still help. It was said that 2 fists couldn't beat 4 hands. They had 6 hands on their side. As for what the old monster was thinking, who cared? He could either choose to fight or run away. The key was that he might not be able to run away. The wind-sweeping moon was an open move in the Tai Chi palm. First, it opened wide to encircle people, then closed the door and locked them. Tai Chi was invisible. Tai Chi was everywhere. Tai Chi was everywhere, unless the opponent chose to avoid it. As long as he approached or attacked, he would be within the range of the wind-sweeping moon. The old monster's eyes turned cold, but he couldn't retreat. What awaited him was a battle to the death. One of his hands had been cut off by the little goblin. This kind of injury was a disaster for a martial artist. Apart from Yanghua in The Return of the Condor Heroes, have you ever heard of a one-armed man who was a top master? Besides, Yanghua's superb kung fu was inseparable from his experience of living alone with his eagle for many years. After all, no matter how smart the eagle was, it was only a bird. Birds should not kill birds of the same kind. The old monster moved. He didn't directly charge at Fong Yin. He also came from the Tai Chi sect. Even if he didn't understand the essence of Tai Chi, he still had a certain understanding of the Tai Chi moves and styles of various sections. In a fight between masters, control was important. If he rushed straight at Fong Yin, he would enter Fong Yin's sphere of influence. If Fong Yin was completely in control of the situation, the only thing that awaited him in the end would be death. The old monster's body moved as fast as lightning. With a leap and a light tap of his toes, he flew to the top of the 1-meter-high pile of scrap metal. His feet moved quickly, and the thick, heavy, and embroidered weapons flew towards Fong Yin's direction. Whoosh! Fong Yin scooped with one hand, and the first iron artifact fell into Fong Yan's arms. His hands were not stained by the dust. Not even a corner of his clothes could touch the iron. He used his own chi to guide the trajectory of the iron weapon. After making 2 full circles, he smashed it at the pile of iron that the old monster was standing on at a faster speed and with greater force. Clang! The old monster leaped high into the air, and the iron shaft slammed into the wall of the factory behind him. Boom! A big hole appeared in the wall, and the ring-shaped iron shaft actually went through the wall. The entire factory began to shake, and the dust on the roof whooshed down as if a sandstorm had arisen. This was just the beginning. Fong Yin waved his hands even faster, and the iron blocks and handles that the old monster had kicked were all swept up by him, and then he smashed them back in the direction of the old monster. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Moreover, the force was stronger, and the momentum was more majestic. This was the essence of Tai Chi, using one's own strength and one's own strength to hit one's enemy. If one could resist one's own strength, how could one resist the combined force of 2 people? The old monster dodged left and right on top of the pile of scrap metal like a ballet. After the storm of attacks from Fong Yin, he was in a very difficult and dangerous situation. The little goblin, whose hands and feet were tied and whose mouth was gagged, widened his eyes, and his face was full of panic and anxiety. Fong Yin was too powerful. The heavily injured old monster was no match for him at all. What was worse was that they were good at working together. However, how could he cooperate with him in his current situation? His life was in danger. Junior Marshal Uncle's move of true man selecting soldiers is really good. Fong Yingying looked at Fong Yin with admiration and said with a smile, "Junior Marshal Uncle is angry," Fong Haohan said. Fong Yingying looked at the little goblin and said, "Although I feel that you are very pitiful, if you kill Junior Marshal Uncle, Missy will also be very pitiful." Fong Haohan looked at Fong Yingying with a puzzled face and asked, "Why is Miss Yi pitiful?" Miss Yi is not Junior Marshal Uncle's wife, and Miss Yi did not give birth to a son for Junior Marshal Uncle. Idiot! Fong Yingying slapped Fong Haohan's head. Seeing that Fong Yin was busy fighting with others, he thought that he could not hear what he said, so he said in a low voice, "If you were Miss Yi, you could find someone to beat up every day when you are in a bad mood, and that person could not resist. Do you think that your mood can be cute every day?" Fong Haohan's eyes widened, and he thought for a while, and finally understood. He grinned, nodded honestly, and said, "I can be cute every day." Hearing the conversation between these two, the little goblin almost laughed out loud. One of you has a fat head and a bun face, and the other has a long and flat wax melon head. Don't imitate other people's hobby of dressing up like this. Do you know that you're not cute at all? But when she thought about how her man was in a life and death struggle, she had to grieve and be heartbroken to match her current mood and situation. Could you imagine how much of a test of skill it was for her to move her facial muscles with all her might? Because Fong Yan's counterattack was too fierce, the old monster could no longer stand on the pile of scrap metal. His body jumped up, and his feet turned into blades, and he aimed at Fong Yan's neck. "Here it comes." Fong Yan sneered. He moved his body to one side and avoided the old monster's direct attack. Then he used both hands to buckle the old monster's long legs, and one hand grabbed his ankle. With a strong pull, the old monster's flying body was pulled back by him. He punched the old monster's knee, and with a crisp crack, one of the old monster's legs was broken. "Ah!" The old monster screamed. Fong Yin did not stop there, and he still held the old monster's ankle. His right foot kicked up at a 180-degree angle, directly hitting the upper body of the old monster, whose body was still hanging in the air and kicking it high into the air. When the old monster's body was in a free fall, Fong Yin kicked the second time. Bang! After a muffled groan, the old monster's body flew high again. Third kick, fourth kick, fifth kick. Gee! The old monster's body was kicked 7 or 8 times, and his bones felt like they were about to fall apart. However, he still clenched his teeth and held on, and kept his mouth closed. Suddenly, his body was hanging upside down, and he grabbed Fong Yan's lower body. In his hand, he was holding a triangular bayonet that was shining with a cold light. The tip of the bayonet went straight for Fong Yan's calf. If he succeeded with this attack, Fong Yan's entire left leg would be broken. You're asking for it. Fong Yan was furious. His body spun 360 degrees, round and round, and he swung the old monster's body again. Then, he kicked the old monster's body toward the pile of scrap metal. Clang! Clang bang! The old monster's body knocked down several metal shelves, and he was finally stopped by a large piece of machinery. Blurg, the old monster was lying there, retching. When he opened his mouth, a pool of sticky blood gushed out. When Fong Yan continuously kicked his chest, his internal organs were already seriously injured. However, he resisted the urge to spit out the clotted blood. This was because he knew that once he vomited blood in the process of battle, the taut energy in his body would leak out. Without the ability to fight back, there would be no hope of escape. If that happened, he would really be dead if he fell into Fong Yan's hands. Of course, he was only left with a small part of his life. The little goblin whimpered, and his body struggled with all his might. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not untie the Tai Chi knot that Fong Ying tied on him. The Tai Chi knot. One knot leads to 100 knots, and the more knots are untied, the more knots there are. If one did not know how to untie knots, he would probably be strangled to death by this knot. Woo woo woo. The little goblin whimpered at Fong Ying. She wants to talk to you, Fong Haohan said. Fong Ying pulled off the rag on the little goblin's mouth. Before he could ask what she wanted to say, the little goblin had already shouted, "Let him go. Fong Yan, please let him go. He is also a Tai Chi disciple, the same as you. Fong Yan, let him go. I will promise you anything." Fong Yan looked at the little goblin and said, "I just talked to him. I need an answer. But he didn't give it to me. It's not that we don't want to give it to you. It's that we really don't know who ordered us to kill you. Fong Yan, let him go. I will die for him." Fong Yan shook his head and said, "It can't be replaced. No one can replace the other. Lu Jinju is dead. Even if 10 old monster and little goblin died, they can't replace his mother who lost her son, his wife who lost her husband, and his son. His son just turned 1 month old. He didn't even have the chance to hear his son call him daddy. How can he replace this?" The old monster vomited another mouthful of blood and screamed, "Don't beg him. Don't beg him. From the day we betrayed the sect, every day we live is equal to one more day of profit for us. That's enough. It's really enough. No, I have wronged you. It's all my fault. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have betrayed the sect. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have been hunted down. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have become an assassin. It's all my fault. I don't care if I die, but I want you to live." The old monster shook his head and said, "If you die, how can I live?" He supported himself with one hand on the metal frame and struggled to stand up. Step by step, he walked toward where Fong Yan was standing. He staggered, and one of his legs was dragging on the ground. He was still covering his mouth and coughing violently. Every time he coughed, his injured internal organs would be pulled, and every time his internal organs were pulled, he would spit out a mouthful of black blood. Fong Yan's eyes were cold, his whole body vigilant as he stared at the old monster who was getting closer. The old monster stood in front of Fong Yan, the two of them maintaining a distance of less than 1 meter. "I lost," the old monster said. "I'm no match for you. I tried to kill you twice, but failed twice. Now, my life is yours." Chapter 174. The old monster stood loosely in front of Fong Yan, as if he was waiting to be slaughtered. He had given up fighting and resisting. As long as Fong Yan gave him a light push, he would fall to the ground. This kind of person was really too hateful. Fong Yan was a little anxious. He said, "You punched me. You hit my face." The old monster stood there motionless, as if he hadn't heard Fong Yan's words at all. He covered his mouth with his hand. Every time he opened his palm was covered in blood. "You can kick me, or just touch me," Fong Yan said. Dive. It's like diving on a football field. Fall on my body. The old monster laughed loudly. He pointed at Fong Yin and laughed so hard that his tears and snot were coming out. Stupid. He pointed at Wen Yin and roared, really stupid. Fong Yin nodded and said, you can scold me, but scold me a bit harder. You said I was ugly, what? Because I don't have the ability to fight, because you think I'm useless, so you can't do anything? Because of chivalry? Because of the martial art moral teachings? Idiot. There's no shortage of idiots like you in the family or sect. People like you, if you walk out, will be swallowed by others until not even your bones are left. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. You can't even bear to kill an assassin. What if you meet other opponents in the future? What if your family and friends want to kill you? This was a dog-eat-dog world, a place where anything could happen. Fong Yin, you're too naive. That's not what I mean. Fong Yin retorted angrily. These assassins are really hateful. Not only did he want to kill you several times, but he also insulted you after you knocked him down. The old monster patted his chest and shouted with a bloody face, come, Fong Yin, come, kill me, and you'll fulfill your promise. Kill me, and you'll avenge that child. Come on, hit here, one punch is enough. Fong Yin looked at the old monster with a serious expression and asked, do you want to die? I don't want to. Who would want to die if they could live? The old monster laughed and spat out another mouthful of blood. But I know I have no choice but to die. What if I let you live? Fong Yin asked. The old monster was stunned and asked, why didn't you kill me? I mean if... Fong Yin suddenly raised his leg and slapped the old monster's forehead. The old monster's body fell to the ground with a thud. He lay there motionless, and for a long time he did not move. If you didn't kill Lu Jinju, Fong Yin sighed softly. Wen Chong, the little goblin screamed. The old monster's real name was Wen Chong. Perhaps this name was a very distant memory for them. Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan held the little goblin on both sides to prevent her from rushing to fight with Fong Yin. Although she was tied up like a rice dumpling, even if she could run to Fong Yin, she would only be killed. Wen Chong, wait for me. The little goblin screamed hysterically. Fong Yingying reacted quickly and stretched out his hand to pat her neck. Unfortunately, Fong Yingxiong was still a step too late. Before his hand chopped the little goblin's neck and made her faint, the little goblin had already crushed her poisonous fangs. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and then black blood flowed out of her nose and eyes. She looked like an evil ghost, and her appearance was extremely hideous and terrifying. The poison used by the killer was extremely strong, and there was no cure for her. Untie it, Fong Yin said. Fong Yingying stretched out his hand and pulled, and the Tai Chi knot on the little goblin's body suddenly shrunk into a small rope. The little goblin smiled gratefully at Fong Yin and then ran to the old monster's corpse. She had only run 2 steps when the poison took effect, and her body fell to the ground weakly. She didn't stop there and still crawled to the place where the old monster was lying with difficulty. Both of her arms were broken by Fong Yingying, so she could only rely on her physical strength. Her body arched up and down, and arched up again. She kicked her legs forward with all her might, like a sick pig that didn't know fatigue. When her body fell again, she lifted her head once more. She struggled and used all her strength to arch up. However, she had no strength left in her body. Her vision turned black, and her head fell down softly. She couldn't raise her head anymore. Fong Yin, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haoan watched from afar, watching the woman approach the man crazily, getting closer to her life partner. Because a celebrity got divorced, because a celebrity cheated, countless people said that they didn't believe in love anymore. However, Fong Yin saw the true meaning of life and death companionship from these 2 killers. He was deeply shocked. Fong Yingying opened his mouth, but he couldn't say anything. Fong Haoan scratched his head and felt that this scene was so sad. Fong Yin walked over, picked up the little goblin's body, and put it in the old monster's arms. Then, he used the old monster's arms to wrap around the little goblin. Just like that, they finally hugged each other tightly. They died together in such a gentle way. Men are afraid of entering the wrong profession, and women are afraid of marrying the wrong man. I hope you can have good luck in your next life, Fang Yin said. This scene made him feel inexplicably sad. Fang Yin killed the killer who wanted to kill him and Lu Jinju, but he didn't feel the slightest joy in his heart. They were just another form of pitiful people. The mistake was that they chose the wrong profession. Give them a grand funeral, Fang Yin said. Screech. A champagne-colored BMW stopped in front of the iron gate of the villa. This was an old-fashioned villa. It didn't have an electronic gate, and it still used a black iron gate with a sharp point. The courtyard wall was also tall, and the top of the wall was covered with unknown green plants. Dense green moss grew in the damp corners of the outer wall. Everyone lived in peace. The courtyard wall was much higher than a person, so it was impossible to see the situation inside the villa from the outside. Lu Chaoga sat in the driver's seat and looked at the embroidery on the iron gate. She didn't intend to get out of the car immediately. The wound on her face was carefully cared for by Fang Yin. She applied the golden chrysalis skin nourishing powder every day, and there were almost no scars left. Her injured ankle and sprained waist had also recovered. She wore an exquisite suit, and her slender and fair neck was tied with a new Hermes silk scarf. She had regained the demeanor of an ice queen. She inadvertently looked up and saw a pair of gloomy eyes behind the curtain of the room on the second floor. Clang! Lu Chaoga finally opened the door and walked out. She stood in front of the iron gate and gently knocked on the lock of the gate. Soon, an old woman with small feet ran over and opened the iron gate. The old woman just smiled foolishly at Lu Chaoga and didn't speak. She was mute. Lu Chaoga walked into the living room and then walked up to the second floor. At the door of a brown wooden door, she gently knocked on the room door and then pushed the door open without waiting for the person inside to respond. She knew that she wouldn't respond. Bang! The room door closed again. The huge study filled with the fragrance of paper and the moldy furniture that had not been opened for a long time became dark again. The woman stood by the window, but the curtains were drawn tightly. She only needed to reach out and pull, and she would be able to welcome the world of sunshine outside. However, she clearly didn't plan to do so. You don't want to come in? The woman asked in a sharp voice. It was like a knife, ruthlessly stabbing into the heart. I'm sitting in the car thinking about something, Lu Chaoga said. I know what you're thinking, the woman said. Lu Chaoga, do you think you've already won? Do you think you've already won? Do you think this matter can be settled just like that? Isn't that right? Isn't that what you think? I don't, Lu Chaoga said. It's all an act. They're acting to you. Don't you understand? You've watched them act for more than 10 years. Can't you tell the real from the fake? Don't you feel disgusted watching this? The woman said mockingly. Do you really think you've gotten 49% of the shares? Do you think you've already become the second largest shareholder of Longta Group? Do you think you've already amassed billions of assets and that you won't be able to finish spending it even if you lie down for the rest of your life? I've never thought about this. Before they gave you the shares, they had already signed a share expansion plan. They sold a large part of the company's shares to Jiang Julio's shell company, and what they got back was just some negligible checks. When you go to take over the company, the cruel reality will slap a little girl like you who doesn't care about worldly affairs to the ground. What's more hateful is that although they can't change the technology patents that belong to your father, they sold the core technology of these patents to another energy company that they founded. The core assets of Longta Group are already under their control. If they want to turn against them, they can just leave at any time. Do you think they'll pin all their hopes on your father's patents? Do you think Qiang Long Tan is really as modest as he portrays himself to be? A dog that bites doesn't bark. Qiang Long Tan is a wolf dog that can throw you to the ground, tear off your flesh piece by piece, and swallow it into his stomach. Not only will he eat your flesh, but he will also drink your blood, pull out your tendons, and boil your bones into soup. He's a calculative person. Every inch of your body will be fully used by him. He's a demon. There's nothing in this world that he can't do. I know, Lu Chaoga said. Auntie, I know all that you've said. Chapter 175. Do you know? The woman's voice suddenly rose. It was sharp and hoarse, like the sound of sharp object cutting through gauze. You know everything. Why are you hesitating? He wants to eat your flesh, so you have to eat his flesh. He wants to drink your blood, so you have to drink his blood. Before he turns your bones into soup, you have to pull out his bones one by one and put them into the pot to make soup. Defeat him, kill him. Lu Chaoga, this is what you have to do. This is your responsibility. This is your destiny. Think about your parents. Think about the life you have been living all these years. Think about your patience and sacrifice. The woman suddenly turned around, pointing at her face, and roared, "Think about my face. Lu Chaoga, shouldn't you do something for us?" What kind of face was that? It was not an exaggeration to say that it was full of holes. There were some parts where there was no flesh at all, only a piece of black bone that made people want to vomit. She had no hair, and a part of her scalp was burnt. It was wrinkled like craft paper. It looked like it had been scalded by boiling water or roasted by fire. She had no eyebrows, loose eyelids, and wrinkles. Her eyes were ruthless, cold, angry, and hateful. There was nothing positive in them. You could not see her age, but you would suspect that she must be a monster that crawled out from hell. Lu Xiaoga did not dodge, nor did she avert her gaze. She looked at the woman standing in front of her. Her eyes were full of sympathy and love, and an indescribable attachment. This was her aunt, the only family she had left in this world. Wang Li was originally a beautiful woman like her mother. Because of the tragic death of Lu Chaoga's parents, she did not go to the United States, nor did she go to any other place. She did not die. She should have died. On the way back, she did not know what happened, but she fainted. When she opened her eyes, she was trapped in a sea of fire. Her hair was burned off, her scalp was burned, and her face was disfigured. She should have turned into a piece of charcoal. Not even a piece of charcoal, but a pile of dust that no one knew what kind of creature she was. However, there was always a way out. She didn't have time to repair it, so the unlocked rear door saved her life. After she got out of the car with flames all over her body, the car she was in exploded. She believed that it was all Qiang Long Tan's doing, so she began her arduous journey of revenge. She escaped alone and did not contact Lu Chaoga, who had been adopted by Qiang Long Tan. She was accumulating her strength and waiting for an opportunity. Under her manipulation from behind the scenes, they finally won the first victory. "I haven't forgotten. How could I forget?" Lu Chaoga said with a moved expression. "When you suddenly picked me up from school and told me that my parents would never come back, when you hugged me and cried, when I live alone in that strange family of the Zhang family, when I was almost driven crazy by that kind of life, when I went to the United States to look for you, but could not find you, when I was alone for countless festivals. I have been working hard." Only then did the woman calm down a little. She looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "What are you going to do next? As you said just now, the Zhang family has made preparations. On the surface, I have obtained the shares of the company, but in fact, what I have obtained is very limited. The shares have been diluted, and the core patented technology has been leaked. Most importantly, the Longta Group has been run by Qiang Long Tan for many years. Everyone from the top to the bottom is his people. If I go in, I will just become his puppet. It is meaningless. In order to test the loyalty of his subordinates, that hypocrite Jiang Longtu created a culture of borrowing books. Other than the dead Lu Jing, almost all the middle and upper management of the Longta Group have borrowed books from Qiang Long Tan. These people are directly or indirectly showing their support to Qiang Long Tan." The woman said coldly, "Longta Group is under his control. Even if your father is alive, I'm afraid he will not be able to make a sound in Longtu. This is also not the reason for us to cooperate with him." Lu Chaoga finally voiced out her concern. "If the wolf is chased away by the tiger, what about the tiger? Then tell me, what should we do?" The woman snorted coldly. "Without their help, do you think I, a woman, can live to this day? Without their help, do you think we can force the father and son of the Jiang family to this state? If not for them, do you think we can win this time? Lu Chaoga, I know that the human heart is sinister. However, I know that only by staying alive will we have a chance. As long as we are alive, there will be a chance. There will always be a chance. Lu Chaoga was silent. She understood her aunt's way of doing things, but she could not accept it. Because those people were too cunning. They could lift you up right now, but they could also step on you right now. Besides, they have spent so much money and energy to help you. Don't tell me they don't have any ulterior motives. When their positions are switched, when they turn their guns to the outside world, how will she and her aunt face such danger? The father and son of the Jiang family must be eliminated, but it is not enough to rely on our strength. Aunt continued, we need external help. We need to attract more hatred to them. They must die. Aunt looked at Lu Chaoga and said, I believe you can do it. You must do it too. Lu Chaoga, don't let us down. Now is the best chance. If you are disappointed this time, it will be a lifetime of despair. Fang Yin walked to the school gate and saw Baldy arguing with two girls, his face red. Didn't I say it before? You say you are teacher Fang Yan students, then let teacher Fang Yin come out. I don't see teacher Fang Yin, so of course I can't let you in. If all the girls say they are teacher Fang Yan students and then enter Rosefinch Secondary to see teacher Fang Yin, won't the school be in chaos? Teacher Fang Yin doesn't have that much time to receive you. Fang Yin was about to cry. He wanted to rush up and say, Brother Baldy, if there are beautiful girls who say they are my students and want to come in to see me, you must let them in. Wasn't a teacher's duty to protect students and provide them with all kinds of knowledge? He was not afraid of trouble, and he had time. I just called teacher Fang Yin. Didn't you hear it? Let me show you the number on my phone. Don't tell me it's fake. Yuan Lin said angrily, Fang Yin is not a big star. Is it necessary for us to pretend to be brainless fans to see him? That's right. Jiang Qin, who was carrying a red backpack, echoed. When I met teacher Fang Yin, I didn't even know where you were. Fang Yin is my good friend, a very, very good friend. Do you know that? After a pause, Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin angrily and said, Yuan Shaolin, you must give me an explanation. Why is Fang Yan's number on my phone fake, but your number can get through? Yuan Lin laughed and said, That's your phone. How would I know it can't get through? Could it be that you remember the wrong number? Don't think I don't know your tricks. You want to steal my man. Mr. Fang. Yuan Lin inadvertently saw Fang Yin behind her and hurriedly greeted Fang Yin. Don't pretend to be mysterious. I haven't finished speaking. You want to steal my man? As soon as Jiang Qin turned around, she saw Fang Yin standing behind her with a smile. Her cheeks quickly turned red, and she immediately said, Sister will give it to you immediately. I won't steal those stinky men with you. Yuan Lin felt that she was being used by her best friend. Fang Yin looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were still wearing their school uniforms, and asked, You two girls didn't go home after school. Why did you come to my place? Jiang Qin hadn't recovered from the shyness just now. She said with a red face, My language has been declining recently, and there are a lot of questions that I can't do. I can't understand what the teacher is saying. I want to find Mr. Fang to tutor me. Me too. Yuan Lin nodded again and again. Do you really want to tutor? Fang Yin asked with a smile. Of course. Jiang Qin bit the bullet and said, We even brought the tuition fee. Yuan Lin, open your wallet and let him see. Why do you want to open my wallet? Yuan Lin asked. Because I don't have money, Jiang Qin said frankly. So, Yuan Lin had to open her branded wallet and showed the thick stack of bills to Fang Yin. It meant, Don't be afraid. I have money, enough to support you for a few days and nights. Hurry up and put away your wallet. Fang Yin said with a frown. Yuan Lin, don't carry so much cash with you when you go out next time. Why do you, a student, carry so much money? You're adding a lot of danger for no reason. Okay, I'll listen to Mr. Fang. Yuan Lin agreed readily. Let's go. I'm making curry chicken with rice. You two little girls are lucky. Fang Yin said with a smile. Baldy trotted to Fang Yin and said, Mr. Fang, are they really your students? Yes, Fang Yin said. I don't think so, Baldy said. I'm worried that they're approaching you with ulterior motives. I want to apply to the captain to protect your safety. Fang Yin shook his head helplessly and said, Baldy, if you want coffee with rice, just say it. I didn't mean that. Baldy's thin face turned purple. If you have extra, I'll get a bowl. When Fong Yin walked back to his courtyard with Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan, who were practicing martial arts in the courtyard, had their eyes lit up instantly. Fong Yingying gave Fong Haoan a look, and then the two secretly played rock, paper, scissors to guess the winner. Chapter 176. Fong Haoan used scissors, and Fong Yingying used rock. Rock smashed scissors, and Fong Yingying won this round of the competition and had the priority to choose the beauties. His chubby face was full of smiles, and he walked in front of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin with his most charming appearance. Before he could open his mouth to speak, the two little girls bowed to him politely and shouted, "Hello, uncle." "Uncle, uncle." Fong Yingying's big face was pale. However, as a man, he must always maintain a gentleman's demeanor. Maybe there was a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. The most important thing was, didn't the little girls nowadays like older uncles? Only uncles had great competition. Therefore, Fong Yingying endured the pain on his face and smiled at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. "Hello, two beautiful little girls. Look, what a gentle and appropriate response. Uncle, you look like Garfield." Yuan Lin giggled and said, "Oh, surprised face. Garfield? How did I become Garfield? Which part of me looks like Garfield? How could I look like a cat?" Fong Yingying wasn't just feeling pain on his face, but this time it was his heart. "Yeah, so cute." Jiang Qin also echoed, "Ah." Fong Yingying laughed, and suddenly his eyes and mouth opened into an O shape, and he stuck out his fat tongue. He put his two hands beside his ears and made a peace sign, and said, I'm Garfield from Garfield." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were rocking back and forth with laughter, tears flowing down their cheeks. Yuan Lin pointed at Fong Yingying and said, "So cute. Fat uncle is so cute. Yeah, he really looks like that fat cat. I really want to pinch his face." "Pinch face?" Fong Yingxiong's eyes lit up. He swayed left and right as he moved step by step towards Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. He shouted, "Master, hurry up and pinch my face, hurry up and pinch my face." Pinching faces can unlock more skills. Plop! Fong Yin kicked him from behind, causing him to fall flat on his face. "Who kicked me?" When Fong Yingying climbed up from the ground with difficulty, he saw Fong Yan's black face. "Little martial uncle." The anger on Fong Yingxiong's fat face immediately turned into a smile, and he said fawningly, "Your white snaketail whip is getting better and better. I was completely defenseless when you kicked me. Good kick, wonderful kick. You idiot scum. We are the descendants of the Fong clan's Taiji. How could we do such a thing that would damage our reputation? As a top-notch martial artist, we should have a basic requirement for our own image. Standing like a pine tree, moving like the wind, standing like a bronze bell. Fong Yingying, tell me, which one did you do? Are you worthy of the name of a hero?" Fong Haoan said with a wronged face, "Junior martial uncle, I didn't do anything standing here." "Sorry, I said that too casually." Fong Yin apologized to Fong Haoan. Then, he focused his attacks on Fong Yingxiong and said, "You better wake up." "Yes, junior martial uncle." Fong Yingying answered obediently. Fong Yin sighed softly and turned to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were behind him, and said, "I don't want to be strict with them, but I have to be strict with them. A country has its laws, and a family has its rules. Since they are from Fong's Tai Chi and call me junior martial uncle, I have to be responsible for their words and deeds. You may not know this, but we, the famous sects, are very strict with our disciples. Martial arts, martial art morality, none of them can be missing. Only martial art morality. Without martial arts, it is difficult to enter the next level. Only martial arts, but not martial art morality, and disciples are easy to go out and commit crimes. We, who practice martial arts, are like Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Batman in the city. If we don't stand properly, won't we become the villains in the movies? Think about it. If Spider-Man scourges the people, how much loss will it bring? Is there any hope for this country? Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at Fong Yin with little stars on their faces and praised him in unison. "Mr. Fong, you are so handsome." Fong Yin waved his hand freely and said, "It has nothing to do with being handsome or not. This is our responsibility as martial artists. The greater a person's ability, the greater his responsibility. I dare not forget this sentence. Mr. Fong, you are a responsible man." Yuan Lin grabbed Fong Yin's arm and said. Jiang Qin pulled Yuan Lin away from Fong Yin and said, "You little love-struck fool, you haven't explained to me why I can't get through to Mr. Fong's number on my mobile phone. Tell me, what did you do to him?" Jiang Qin replaced Yuan Lin's position, grabbed Fong Yan's arm, and said, "Mr. Fong, Yuan Xiaolin is too bad. She actually changed your number on my mobile phone, so I can't get through to you. You should teach her a lesson." Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan looked at each other, and both of them had deep helplessness and sadness in their hearts. Was this really a cruel world that only looked at appearances? "I still think Rin Jin is good-looking," Fong Haoan said. "I don't like these girls." Fong Yingying nodded and said, "Too thin." After thinking about it, Fong Yingying asked, "Is Junior Martial Uncle Iron Man, Spider-Man, or Batman?" "He is Superman." "Why?" "They all like to tie their underwear to their chest, but in fact, they don't wear underwear at all." Fong Yingying patted Fong Haoan's shoulder and said with deep sympathy, "No underwear means no bottom line." Baldy came over and patted Fong Yingying's shoulder, and then patted Fong Haoan's shoulder without saying anything. Everything was understood without words. Fong Yingying took Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin into the house. Zhang Chun, a big man wearing a scarf, was busy in the kitchen. When he saw Fong Yin coming in, he said with a simple and honest smile, "Master, curry chicken will be ready in a while. You sit with the guests for a while." Fong Yin seriously corrected Zhang Chen's way of addressing him and said, "Zhang Chen, how many times have I said that we are brothers? My kung fu is better than yours, and my cultivation is higher than yours, but this is not the reason why I can be your master. Master, I will definitely make you accept me as your disciple," Zhang Chan said with a determined face. "Whether it's 1 year or 2 years, 10 years or 20 years. Fong Yin shook his head and said to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, "There are too many troublesome guys who want to learn martial arts from me. If I agree to every one of them, how can I do my favorite job of teaching and educating people? Reading books, writing, and reading poems, how romantic is that? What's the point of fighting and killing? I'm a person who advocates peace. I hate war." Fong Yingying covered his butt, not daring to say anything. The messenger of peace had just been kicked by him. "Yes, yes." Jiang Qin held Fong Yan's arm and nodded repeatedly. "Mr. Fong still needs to tutor me in Chinese." "Exactly. Teacher Fong is a knowledgeable, refined, and gentle man. How could he be a hooligan who only knows how to fight and kill?" Yuan Lin, the little tail, also praised. "But Mr. Fong's fighting posture is also very handsome." "Really?" Fong Yan's face lit up, but soon he said with a serious face, "Learning martial arts is to strengthen the body and protect the country. If a martial artist wants to use martial arts to act cool in the modern city, then I can conclude that this martial artist will not have any achievements. I often tell my juniors this." Fong Yingying, Fong Haoan, do I often teach you this? Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan didn't know how to express their feelings at this time. They had always thought that they could finish their apprenticeship, but the longer they interacted with their uncle master, the more they felt that he was an existence that they could only look up to. It was not enough to rely on hard work. Shamelessness was something that required talent. After a pause, Fong Yin said to Zhang Chun, who was standing on the side, "I'll teach you some moves after dinner." "Thank you, master." Zhang Chun was overjoyed. Fong Yin agreed to teach him moves, which was equivalent to giving him guidance in disguise. Fong Yin waved his hand and said, "Make the chicken well." "Make the chicken well." "Yes, master." Zhang Chun held back his laughter and turned to concentrate on making coffee chicken. Fong Yin sat down on the sofa in the living room and said, "Didn't you two want to ask me some language questions? Before dinner is ready, take out your textbooks. If there's anything you don't understand, I'll explain it to you. Fang Yin was a language teacher, and Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were both students. He really wanted to help them improve their language scores. The midterm exam for junior high school was coming soon. If he could help them solve a few difficult problems and improve their scores in the exam, then Fang Yin felt that their trip was not in vain. Do you really want to teach? Jiang Qin said with a bitter face. Yeah? Why don't we learn after dinner? Yuan Lin also refused to learn. We'll learn now, Fang Yin said with a serious expression. You're students, and the primary goal of a student is to learn. Don't think about other messy things. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other, feeling a little down. Mr. Fang's words had a hidden meaning. Take out your language textbooks, Fang Yin said. The two girls unwillingly took down their school bags and rummaged through them. 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. What was even more strange was that the two girls' delicate skin blushed, and there were fine beads of sweat on their foreheads. Fang Yin looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were almost putting their heads into their school bags, and asked, What are you two doing? Is it so hard to find a textbook? Is your school bag a bottomless pit? Mr. Fang, Jiang Qin's little face was about to cry. I forgot to bring my language textbook. Me too. Yuan Lin's little face was also red. I clearly put my language textbook in my school bag after school. How did it disappear? Chapter 177. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin lowered their heads and blushed as they stood in front of Fang Yin, like two children who had done something wrong. Fang Yin looked at them thoughtfully and didn't speak for a long time. Fang Yin didn't speak, and the atmosphere became more and more awkward. Jiang Qin was angry and felt that they couldn't go on like this, or they would be more and more passive. She couldn't let Fang Yin think about it in peace. If he figured out their intentions for coming here, how embarrassing would that be? So, Jiang Qin raised her head and pretended to stare at Fang Yin fiercely and said, What? We didn't mean it. We originally wanted to ask you to help us with our language lessons. Do you think we're here to see you? In your dreams. Yes. I also brought tuition fees. Yuan Lin wanted to rummage through her wallet as she spoke. Okay. Fang Yin waved his hand and said, Don't rummage through your wallet. I believe you. Jiang Qin was stunned for a moment. She looked at Fang Yin and asked, Do you really believe us? What can I do if I don't believe you? I don't dare to bully the butcher's daughter. Jiang Qin chuckled and raised her head proudly. She said, It's good that you know. I'm the butcher's daughter. Yuan Lin looked at Jiang Qin and was very envious that she had a butcher's father. Fang Yin pointed to the sofa opposite them and gestured for them to sit down. He said, If you don't understand anything, you can ask me now. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other and shook their heads. Both of them were ranked in the top few in the whole school. They were the top students that the teachers paid special attention to. If they had any questions that they didn't understand, they didn't need to say anything. The teachers of each subject would go up to them and give them guidance. The exam is coming. You two have to study hard and don't run around, Fang Yin said. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin lowered their heads and said nothing. Neither of them liked this kind of preaching education. This year is the most crucial and important year for all of you. You must get good results, Fang Yin continued. The two girls became even more impatient. Their ears were about to get calluses from hearing such words every day. I'll wait for you at Rosefinch, Fang Yin said. Really? Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin exclaimed in surprise. Really? Fang Yin nodded. He knew what these two little girls were thinking. This was a stage that everyone had to go through in life. It was very ignorant and very pure, but it was also abnormally firm and fearless. He couldn't reason with them, and it was impossible for him to tell them that they shouldn't like him because it was impossible for them to be together. That would hurt their self-esteem, and if he didn't handle it well, they might give up on themselves. The consequences would be extremely serious. He was willing to wait for them to grow up, wait for them to mature. At that time, they would realize that they had fallen in love with such an outstanding man. Thus, he very noble and very shameless used the handsome man trick. Can I take the exam for your class 9? Jiang Qin asked. I also want to take the exam for class 9. No, you can't take the exam for class 9. You can go to class 7 or 8, but you can't go to class 9. Yes, I want to be together with you. I don't want to be with you. Who told you to change my phone number? At worst, I won't change it in the future. Their bad moods came and went quickly, and their smiling faces would suddenly blossom into a bright smile. They would quarrel over a simple question, and they would look forward to their beautiful future. It was good to be young, seeing the two girls chattering in front of him about the unreachable matter. Fong Yan's mood inexplicably improved. No wonder everyone liked little Loli, because every frown and smile of theirs were very cute. After the meal, Fong Yan fulfilled his promise and taught Zhang Qin some moves. Fong Yan especially went back to his room and changed into a white scholar's robe, looking handsome and elegant. He also deliberately stood in a row with Fong Yingying and Fong Haoan, making people feel that he was a dragon among men and a crane among chickens. This made Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, the two brainless fans, applaud again and again. Their eyes were full of little stars. Zhang Chun, who was wearing a black sportswear, stood in front of Fong Yin and bowed to Fong Yin. Master, please advise me. Fong Yin nodded and said, You attack me. Okay. Zhang Chun agreed. He clenched his fists and sank his chi into his dantian. After a roar, his whole body pounced towards Fong Yin. A fist smashed towards Fong Yan's chest. Speed, strength, angle. The three were all together. Three became one. For Zhang Chun to be able to establish such a great reputation in Huaqing, he indeed had his outstanding points. The wind from the fist was fierce, wrapped with a strong wind. Up! Jiang Qin screamed. Zhang Qin's momentum was too shocking, and his fist was too frightening. She was worried that he would hurt her, Mr. Fong. Fong Yin stretched out his hand, then stretched out his palm and lightly flicked. After Zhang Chun spun on the spot, his attack missed. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin both let out a sigh of relief at the same time. Fong Yingying came over and said as if he already knew this would happen, Don't worry. Junior Martial Uncle will be fine. I know. Jiang Qin nodded. But what if Mr. Fong is hurt? It's inevitable to get hurt in a martial arts competition. We didn't say that Uncle Zhang is not allowed to get hurt. Jiang Qin said innocently. Did you forget? Fong Yin asked. Zhang Qin thought for a while and said, I forgot. Again, Fong Yin said. So, Zhang Chun moved his chi into his dantian again, clenched his fists, and punched at a faster speed, heavier strength, and a more tricky angle. This punch was still aimed at Fong Yan's chest. Fong Yan hid one hand behind his back. When Zhang Chun rushed in front of him, he stretched out his right hand lightly. Similarly, he stretched out his hand and then gently flicked. Zhang Chen's hands and feet seemed to be entangled by an irresistible force, and his body fell backward involuntarily. Plop! Zhang Chun fell to the ground on his buttocks. Good. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin applauded. Mr. Fong is so handsome. Did you forget? Fong Yin asked again. Zhang Qin closed his eyes and thought for a while, then said, I forgot. Again, Fong Yin said. He still hid one hand behind his back and stood tall, waiting for Zhang Chun to take the initiative to attack him. Zhang Chun rushed over again. A probe and a flick. Plop! Zhang Chen's body was hit and flew out, crushing a pot of pink orchids in the corner. Fong Yin raised his eyebrows, but asked calmly, Did you forget? Zhang Chun climbed up from the ground with difficulty and said, Master, I forgot. The smile on Fong Yan's face froze. It was as black as the curry chicken he ate that night. Master! Zhang Chun looked at Fong Yin cautiously. Was there something wrong with his answer? There was no reason. This was the standard version of the answer. When he was a child, he had seen the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. Zhang Sanfeng wanted to teach his grandson Zhang Wuji Tai Chi. When he demonstrated it for the first time, his grandfather asked Zhang Wuji, How much do you remember what I taught you? Zhang Wuji said, Big Master, I only remember half of it. Zhang Sanfeng demonstrated it again and asked, "What about now?" Zhang Wuji replied, "Only less than half of it is left." After the third demonstration, Zhang Sanfeng asked, "What about now?" Zhang Wuji said, "I have forgotten everything." Everyone was worried sick. They thought, "Why is this child so stupid? Big Master taught you martial arts. How can you forget everything?" Unexpectedly, Zhang Sanfeng's old face was beaming like a flower as he praised his grandson's talent. Although he was young at that time, he still felt his blood boiling when he saw this scene. Now, Teacher Fong Yin demonstrated it 3 times and asked him 3 times, "Did he forget?" According to Zhang Wuji's answer, shouldn't he have forgotten everything? Only then would he be able to show that he was a rare martial arts genius with extraordinary comprehension like Zhang Wuji. "You have forgotten everything I taught you?" Fong Yin asked. "Master, I have forgotten everything." "Since you've forgotten everything, doesn't that mean my efforts were in vain? What's the point of continuing to teach you?" Fong Yin shouted harshly. "Master," Zhang Chun was shocked. "Aren't we learning Tai Chi? It's Tai Chi. Tai Chi doesn't focus on moves, only on conception, right?" Fong Yin's black face became darker. He suppressed his anger and said, "Tai Chi doesn't focus on moves, only on conception. But that is when your moves have been perfected. Only when you see the mountain, but not the mountain, and the water, but not the water, can you reach the third level. You don't even know whether the Tai Chi moves are horizontal or vertical. Do you know what the conception of Tai Chi is? Do you think you are Zhang Wuji?" Zhang Qin's eyes widened, and his face was full of surprise. "So that's what happened? Old Master Jean has done a lot of harm. This guy thinks he is shooting a movie," Fong Yingying said with a smile. "He is even stupider than me," Fong Haohan said. After Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin understood the mistake made by Zhang Chun, they laughed again and said, "Why is it so funny? Why is it so funny?" Zhang Chun lowered his head in shame and said, "Master, I was just talking nonsense. I've memorized all your moves." It was really shameful for such a man to make such a naive mistake in front of a girl. "Tell me then, what did you remember?" Fong Yin asked seriously. Zhang Chun thought about it seriously and said, "I attacked 3 times, and Master used the same move and the same strength to fight back." Fong Yin nodded and said, "The moves are the same, and the strength is the same. Nothing changed. However, the results of my 3 counterattacks were different. The first time, Master just dissolved my fist force and made me turn in a circle. The second time, I felt that my body was tied up, and I couldn't move or escape, so I fell to the ground. The third time, I didn't have any reaction at all, and there was an irresistible force that sent me flying." Zhang Qin's eyes lit up, and he asked excitedly, "Master is teaching me how to use strength." Chapter 178. The boy was worth teaching. Fong Yin had seen Zhang Chun and Fong Yingying sparring with Fong Haohan a few times, but he had never made any comments on Zhang Chen's kung fu. Only after he had a certain understanding of Zhang Chun did he offer to feed him moves. Although Fong Yin had never thought of taking Zhang Chun as his disciple, he absolutely did not want the person he sincerely wanted to help to be a brute who only had brute force. If he was really just a brute, Fong Yin would not make any changes to his moves and the way he exerted his strength. It was better to let him be brute for a lifetime than to let him be brute for a while. Maybe he could really walk a different path. Hua Xia's 7 addicts. Which one of them did not become the best in their field because of their extreme foolishness? Zhang Chun could see the true meaning of Fong Yan's feeding, which was barely a pass. "Good guess." Fong Yan nodded and said. He pointed at Zhang Chen's arms and chest and said, "Your whole body is full of strength, but there is no place for you to exert your strength. It's like writing with a brush. The ink must be evenly used, the thickness must be appropriate, and the density must be well proportioned. Only in this way can you become a master of a generation. Have you seen any calligrapher whose strokes are of the same thickness?" Zhang Chun shook his head. "Tai Chi is about using softness to overcome hardness, but if hardness reaches the extreme, It is also Tai Chi Yin and Yang are two extremes, and you occupy both extremes of Yang, Fang Yin said. You're not a flexible person, and this has something to do with your own character. So what you need to do now is to continue to polish your strength. Still practice strength? Zhang Chun did not understand. With a flick of his foot, a green brick landed in Fang Yan's palm. He slapped it with his palm, and the blue brick immediately turned into powder. Wow! Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin exclaimed again. Mr. Fang is too handsome, too handsome. Fang Yingying smiled and said, I can do it too. Mr. Fang is so awesome. He gives people a sense of security. Fang Yingying touched his face and felt the cruelty of life even more clearly. This world belongs to handsome men. Fang Yin clapped his hands, and the ashes fell to the ground. Fang Yin flicked his toes, and another brick landed in his hand. He gathered his strength and made his move. His palm lightly pressed forward. The blue brick was still the same blue brick from before, and it didn't look any different from before. Stretch out your hand, Fang Yin said. Zhang Chun stretched out his hand, and Fang Yin placed the blue brick in Zhang Chen's palm. Zhang Chun clenched his fist tightly, and the green brick turned into powder and slipped through the gaps between his fingers. Do you understand? Fang Yin asked. Understood. Zhang Chen nodded. In the world of martial arts, only speed is unbeatable. In the world of martial arts, strength is unbeatable. Whether it's speed or strength, it can make you invincible. Of course, you're now at the bottleneck of increasing your strength, so think about how I knocked you down in 3 moves. Once you understand, your bottleneck will naturally be solved. Zhang Chun was the 3-time boxing champion of Huacheng. It wasn't difficult for him to break a brick or a walnut. However, he couldn't lift something heavy as if it were light, and he couldn't lift something light as if it were heavy. In the end, boxing was still boxing. Compared to Fang Yin, who knew the inner force mantra, there was a huge gap. For example, as he grew older, Zhang Chen's speed would become slower, his strength would become lighter, and the angle would deviate. However, Fang Yin and the others would not. The older they were, the faster they were, the more powerful they were, and the more accurate the angle of their attacks would be. This was the effect of inner force. What was inner force? That was a well. When you were young, you would constantly fill it with things, and the quantitative change would lead to qualitative change. When the well was full, it would gush out, and what you needed would be endless. Thank you, Master. Zhang Chun grabbed a handful of brick dust and said with a serious expression. Fang Yin waved his hand and said, Didn't I say it before? We're brothers, so don't call me Master. Fang Yin turned to look at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said, Let's go. I'll send you to the bus station. You have to go back too. The 2 girls looked unhappy, but they knew they couldn't stay here for the night. They carried their backpacks and walked out of the school with Fang Yin. After Fang Yin walked away, Baldy walked to the ground and picked up a brick. He shouted, Break. The brick was intact. There wasn't even a crack, let alone break. Baldy wasn't convinced. He held the brick with both hands and shouted, Break. The brick was still the same brick. Of course, it wouldn't break just because he shouted. Baldy was shocked. He looked at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen and asked, Is this brick real? Fang Yingying sneered and said, Do you think it's a prop brick? Baldy laughed and said, I thought Mr. Fang deliberately used this to coax young girls. I did it when I was young. Seeing Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen's murderous eyes, Baldy said quickly, I have to go on duty too. I'm busy. He waved his hand randomly and escaped from this frightening courtyard. Fang Yin walked in front, and Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin followed reluctantly. Mr. Fang, can I still come to see you? Jiang Qin asked. Yes, Fang Yin said. Then I'll come tomorrow. You can't come tomorrow, Fang Yin said. You can't come before the midterm exam. Mr. Fang, Jiang Qin said anxiously. Then I'll bring the language textbooks tomorrow. Yes, we'll come tomorrow and bring the language textbooks, Yuan Lin said. We'll pay for the tuition. We won't waste your time. Fong Yin stopped and turned to look at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin behind him. He said very seriously, I promised you that I'll wait for you in Rosefinch. So, you also promised me that you'll study hard before entering Rosefinch, okay? Jiang Qin still wanted to argue that she came to find him to study hard and get better grades. However, when she met Fong Yan's eyes, she couldn't say anything. He understood everything that was on her mind. I promise, Jiang Qin said. Kiss. Yuan Lin pulled Jiang Qin's hand eagerly, indicating that she shouldn't be silly. I promise you, Jiang Qin said. I promise you that I'll study hard. I promise you that I'll get good grades in every exam. I promise you that I'll enter Rosefinch High. I promise you that I'll enter Class 9. I promise you that I won't fall in love with you easily. Okay, Fong Yin said with a smile. After getting Jiang Qin's confirmation, Fong Yin felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Jiang Qin stared at Fong Yin with a burning gaze and said, But before I get into Rosefinch, before I enter Class 9, before I grow up and become an adult, can you wait for me and give me a chance to fall in love with you? The smile on Fong Yan's face instantly froze. You promise? Jiang Qin asked eagerly. Fong Yan waved his hand and said, It's late, go back. Without waiting for Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to respond, he had already turned around and left. Jiang Qin wiped her tears and looked at Yuan Lin and asked, Am I too useless? The bet between Fong Yin and Zhang Yu was known by everyone. Even some of the school's higher-ups knew about the bet between the two. In the anticipation of countless people, the midterm exam of Rosefinch Secondary finally arrived. The students of Class 1 and Class 9 were all full of energy, wholeheartedly thinking of defeating their opponents in this exam. Class 1 wanted to prove to the teachers and students of the school that Class 1 was Class 1 and that the class of kings could not be ignored. The students of Class 9 also wanted to prove that their learning ability was not worse than others, that their IQ was not lower than others, and that Class 9 could also be number 1. The midterm exam was the school's big exam. The grades of all the students in the school had to be ranked, and even the report cards had to be mailed to the parents of each student. This was the test of half a semester, and also an important conclusion. For this exam, all the teachers and students in the school were mobilized. The students were divided into different classes, and the invigilator also made careful arrangements. For example, the first-year math teacher would invigilate the third-year language exam, and the third-year English teacher would invigilate the first-year math exam. It was absolutely impossible for the teacher of the class to invigilate the students of the class. Fong Yin stood on the podium of the classroom, looking at the students below the stage for the final general mobilization, and said, I have already written a letter of apology. Wow. The whole audience was in an uproar. Mr. Fong, do you not trust us that much? Mr. Fong, we can definitely beat Class 1. Teacher, don't be like this, okay? We are full of confidence. The students reacted very fiercely, as if they had been greatly insulted. Fong Yin waved his hand, motioning for everyone to quiet down, and said, I will first read a paragraph for everyone. Everyone listen to what I have written. Fong Yin cleared his throat and said, I fear the starry sky, because it is endless and makes people realize their own insignificance. I cherish morality, because it makes people realize their own shortcomings and reestablish their own beliefs. I respect my opponent, because he defeated me with great strength, woke me up, and let me taste the taste of defeat and tears of humiliation. I've fantasized countless times that I'm on the winning side. Even in my dreams, I still hope so. How can I lose? I am so strong. How can I lose? My journey is the galaxy and the distance. Yes, I am very strong, but my opponent is even stronger. My journey is the galaxy and the distance, but my opponent's journey is a place that I can't see. My opponent is handsome, wise, gentle, and kind. He respects the school leaders, unites with fellow teachers, cares for every student, and truly treats every student as his own child. The students' faces were red, and their breathing was rapid. Chuan Jiashu clenched his fists, wishing he could rush up and tear the letter of apology into pieces. Mr. Fong, How could he write such a letter of apology? Fong Yin glanced at the students below the stage and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, this letter of apology is written by me to teacher Zhang Yu." Chapter 179. In the examination room, the students were all engrossed in answering their papers. Only the slight breathing and the rustling sound of the pen tip sliding on the paper could be heard. Fong Yin and a language teacher named Li Xiaowei were invigilating the second-year mathematics exam at the same time. Li Xiaowei walked around the examination room. Her small eyes behind the thick glasses were extremely sharp. She took in every student's every move. She was a very responsible invigilator. Fong Yin sat on the podium. His eyes were gentle and smiling as he glanced at the students' answers. Most of the students were well-behaved. They were either thinking with their heads down or answering quickly on the draft paper. However, there were also some students who tried to take a shortcut and directly copied other people's learning results onto their own papers. Fong Yin stared at a target. This was a little fatso wearing rimless glasses. He looked simple and honest. The pen in his hand never stopped. However, from time to time, he would raise his head to look at Fong Yin or glance at Li Xiaowei's position. This had already exposed his absent-mindedness and guilty conscience. I'm telling you, don't have any illusions. Everyone has to rely on their own ability to take the exam. If I find anyone cheating, the papers will be confiscated. All the results will be invalid. I'll even have to ask your parents to come. Li Xiaowei had also discovered some of the potential enemies in the classroom, so she threatened them sternly. Most of the students lowered their heads to answer their papers. Some students, in order to prove their innocence, bravely raised their heads and smiled at Li Xiaowei. They looked for the students who might have cheated with her. Fatso also raised his head and smiled. However, the smile on his face was a little unnatural. In the eyes of the adults, students at this age did not have mature acting skills. Li Xiaowei walked past Fatso. At this moment, a ball of paper from the next table flew towards little Fatso. This kid had an accomplice. Li Xiaowei seemed to have grown glasses on the back of her head. She suddenly turned around and looked around. Little Fatso's face was pale. He lowered his head and did not dare breathe. Even though it was a cool and rainy day, his forehead was still dripping with sweat. His unusual behavior immediately attracted Li Xiaowei's attention. She rushed in front of little Fatso and pulled out his test paper. Her eyes were like radar as she scanned little Fatso's desk. He put away his draft paper, opened his pencil case, and even unscrewed the cylindrical pen he used to answer questions to see if there was anything hidden in it. No evidence of cheating was found. "Stand up," Li Xiaowei said in a low voice. Fatso's legs were trembling as he stood up shakily. "Tell me, where is the answer hidden?" Li Xiaowei glanced at Fatso's body and clothes and asked aloud. "Teacher, there is no answer," Fatso said through gritted teeth. "No, not as scared as you." Li Xiaowei sneered. "Teacher, my body isn't good. I'm sick." "Sick? I think it's a mental illness, right?" Li Xiaowei was very angry and dissatisfied with Fatso. However, she couldn't find evidence of Fatso's cheating, so she couldn't continue to harp on it. It would delay Fatso's exam time and affect the other students' exam state. "I'm telling you, Zhang Sanxin, I'm telling you, I'm watching you. If you dare to cheat, don't blame me for being rude to you." "Teacher, I won't," Fatso replied in a low voice. "Sit down," Li Xiaowei said. Fatso sat down and took the pen to write and draw on the draft paper. He looked like he was doing the math seriously. Li Xiaowei stood next to Fatso and stared at him for a while. She really couldn't find anything suspicious, so she turned and left. When Li Xiaowei left, little Fatso breathed a long sigh of relief. He glanced at the ground. There was a rolled-up piece of waste paper. Because it was in the corner of the table, it was hard to see it. He stretched out one of his feet and tried to pick up the small ball of paper with his other foot. At this moment, a large hand reached over and nimbly picked up the ball of paper from the ground. Fong Yin held the paper ball in his hand and looked at little Fatso thoughtfully. He looked like he knew everything. Little Fatso's pupils expanded, and his face turned purple. He was scared out of his wits. The sweat on his forehead was even denser, and his expression was even more embarrassed. He looked at Fong Yin with pleading eyes, like a pitiful puppy begging for a bone that could save its life. Li Xiaowei saw Fong Yin's action and quickly walked over. "What's the matter?" Li Xiaowei asked. "It's nothing," Fong Yin said with a smile. "We have to remind the students to try their best to maintain the cleanliness of the examination room during the exam. Don't litter." As Fong Yin spoke, he flicked his finger gently, and the paper ball flew toward the wastepaper basket in the corner of the classroom. "Mr. Fong," Li Xiaowei shouted, but she was still a step too late. She said anxiously, "Mr. Fong, this may be the evidence of students cheating. How can you not open it and check it?" After that, Li Xiaowei glared at Fong Yin fiercely and ran toward the wastepaper basket in the corner of the classroom. She searched for a while, but she couldn't find the paper ball that Fong Yin had just flicked in. There was a pile of charred paper ash on the surface of the wastepaper basket, which seemed to be the paper ball that Fong Yin had just thrown in. But how could it be charred? Li Xiaowei couldn't get any evidence, so this matter could only be dropped. Fong Yin looked at Fatso and said, "Do your best in the exam." After that, he turned around and walked toward the podium again. The bell rang. Under the urging of Fong Yin and Li Xiaowei, the students began to hand in their papers. When Fatso handed in his paper, he glanced at Fong Yin and left without saying anything. Fong Yin saw that the back of his paper was a large blank. Li Xiaowei saw that there was no communication between Fong Yin and Fatso, so she concentrated on sorting out the papers in her hands. She sealed them in a bag and marked them together. After the math exam, this morning's work was temporarily over. Fong Yin and Li Xiaowei sent the papers to the Academic Affairs office together. They had a short meeting in the office to make a summary, and then everyone went home to eat. When Fong Yin walked out of the tree-lined path, there was a voice behind him, "Mr. Fong." Fong Yin turned around and saw the cheating Fatso running toward him. Fatso was panting. It seemed that he rarely participated in sports. He stood in front of Fong Yin and said gratefully, "Mr. Fong, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would be finished today." "Why?" Fong Yin asked sternly. Fatso and Zhang Sanqin looked at Fong Yin with a puzzled face. "Why? Since you know the consequences are so serious, why did you choose this method of cheating?" Fong Yin asked aloud. "My math scores are not good. This time of questions are so difficult. Have you thought about it?" Fong Yin looked at Zhang Sanqin and asked, "If your paper ball fell into the hands of Teacher Li, what kind of consequences would you have to bear? If I had the same idea as Teacher Li, what kind of consequences would you have to bear? So I'm really grateful to Mr. Fong. If it weren't for Mr. Fong, all my results would have been canceled, and my parents would have been called over." Fong Yin shook his head and said, "Zhang Sanqin, I help you not to make you thank me. I helped you not to let you realize that the cost of making a mistake is not that high, but to have a fluke in the future. I always believe that everyone should bear the consequences of making a mistake. You obtained your results by cheating. Isn't this unfair to those students who really rely on their own efforts to get the results?" "Mr. Fong, I'm sorry," Zhang Sanqin said with a ashamed expression. "You can borrow money, but don't think you can borrow other people's knowledge. Knowledge is always in the hands of the real owner. Others can't borrow it or take it away. Even if you get it temporarily, it may be taken away at any time. You even have to pay a heavy price for it." Fong Yin looked at Zhang Sanqin and said, "As a teacher, compared to your previous cheating behavior, I prefer the blank paper you handed in later. You may not have good results, but you prove that you are very honest. Honesty is also a very important advantage, even more important than getting good grades." Fong Yin patted Zhang Sanqin's shoulder and said, "Take care." After that, Fong Yin turned and left. Zhang Sanqin stood in the same place and looked at Fong Yin's departing figure. There was something in his eyes that he didn't have before. "Mr. Fong, thank you." Zhang Sanqin murmured, "Enemies don't meet unless they meet." When Fong Yin walked to the small door to enter the teacher's living area, he happened to meet Zhang Yu, who was also preparing to go home. "Fong Yin." Zhang Yu's voice seemed murderous. "Hello, Miss Zhang." Teacher Zhang, are you preparing to return home for dinner? Fang Yin asked with a chuckle. Fang Yin, you are shameless. Zhang Yu shouted angrily. You didn't win, and I didn't lose. Why do you have to read the apology letter to me in the classroom in front of the students? Why? Fang Yin thought about it and said, I didn't say that I couldn't read it before the bet. You also know that my writing isn't good. I'm afraid that if I don't write well, I'll embarrass Teacher Zhang. A good horse needs a good saddle. Teacher Zhang is a great scholar of our Vermilion Bird Academy. Even if he were to apologize to someone, the letter of apology should be written with great literary talent. How do you know that I will lose? Why isn't it you who will lose? Zhang Yu is really angry. Fang Yin, I tell you, you will lose. When the time comes, don't blame me for not giving you face. Miss Zhang, you and I are both teachers. A teacher should act like a teacher. I believe that Miss Zhang will not do anything too excessive. Fang Yin said with a gentle smile. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.